is.
It wasn't, Matt.
Yeah, it's not live on YouTube.
Now it is.
Oh, now we're live.
Yeah,
Now
we were not
we are.
live.
Now
So we have to re-intro, eh?
Re-intro.
Technical difficulties.
Well, if you guys are joining the beginning of the stream, you are wondering what is going on. We have been streaming for about 5 minutes already, and your fabulous co-host here didn't have it go live on YouTube. So that is my bad. We're going to re-talk about everything we just said. So welcome in everyone officially now to the Batflip Podcast All Star Game Watch Along. You can already tell technical difficulties on that side. I am not able to stream the game sound either like I wanted to, but welcome in. My name is Damien. You got David to my right, Matt below us. We kind of said how we were already doing, but David, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, just like I was 5 minutes ago. All-Star Games, live stream, it's exciting. It's going to be fun. Seattle's a great city, so I'm excited to watch a game here. And even though, I think my feelings on the All-Star Game will make them known, but I don't know. I'm a little tired of the format. I think it's a little basic to just have yet another baseball game in the middle of baseball season, just with everybody together. So we'll get into it later. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good. Just excited for the game tonight and doing our first live stream. I think this is pretty cool. Hopefully we can incorporate this a little bit more into our show. But yeah, it's been been doing pretty good. Exciting first half of baseball's over. Get a few days break and then right back at it on Friday. So excited to talk a little bit about baseball in general and watch the ball game tonight. And let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Like you said, I hope we can figure out a way to make this a more regular occurrence on the channel here. Try and build this community and let you guys kind of see it behind the scenes and get to talk to us live rather than just over Twitter or Instagram or wherever we hear from you guys from. But we were kind of mentioning, so about the home run derby last night, some thoughts and some highlights of what we had, and David, you had an injury update.
Luis Robert strained his calf. You're gonna have some imaging on him. I was very, that's the kind of highlight you don't want to see out of something like the home run derby. And I was trying to note we had like 40 home runs in a round yesterday too. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of swings, a lot of strain trying to hit home runs. I don't love that. Nobody on my team was there, so I'm not too concerned. But like, if I'm a fan of the White Sox or another one of these players, I would be somewhat nervous that they come out with a bit of a home run derby slump, as they say. And I don't know that there's any statistical evidence behind it, but it's one of those things. I feel like it's something that happens.
Yeah, with the new format for the home run derby that we've had the last few years, I'm a little worried about players being, getting fatigued real easy. Having, when you had the 10 outs and you were able to take some pitches and go at a little bit slower pace, I think that was a little bit more of a format it works better for players to not hurt themselves. And I think sometimes if you try to just swing as quick as you can, sometimes you can get injured. I mean, if you watched them, like the last few swings they would take were just wild and their mechanics were way off and just trying to hit ball like really, really fast. So, it's I think in some ways it's more exciting to watch them hit that way, but for longevity purposes, I'm glad nobody on my team did it. And especially with the season Acuna's having, he's done it several times, and I'm glad that he chose not to. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say to mention that format. I very much rather go back to the old format where they're able to take some pitches and have some time where they're not in an unnatural phase of where they're so tired and trying to swing as hard as they possibly can. You never see that in a game, so I did have a player for my team do it, and he didn't even take it to timeout in 3 minutes, and said that he knew after like the third or fourth swing that it was over because he was going against the eventual champion in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So has this thing started yet?
It hasn't started yet.
What's that?
The game.
YouTube?
No, the game.
Oh, the game. I was gonna say YouTube has started.
No, that has.
They're in the commercial for now.
Yeah.
I have a proposal for us here while we're able to talk about it. Oh, we have sound again. Nice.
Yeah.
At least on our end. My proposal would be that the change out, because I think the old format was slow. You could take pitches. There wasn't much. There was a lot of time between home runs, and guys weren't able to really generate a lot of home runs. They're just able to generate those far home runs. What I would say is let's give them metal bats. Let's give them most juiced of juice balls you can get, and let's play a distance game. Right? So maybe a certain amount of home runs that they get. The farthest home run, maybe the farthest 2 or 3, moves on in the round. So then you have a bit of a timed advantage, but the players can kind of take their time, try to work up to that big number in distance, and then we go by distance so that we're looking for those mammoth home runs that are kind of the highlight reels, where I don't really want to see somebody just poking home runs over and over to the same spot, just over the wall. That doesn't do it for me. I want to see the biggest home runs possible, because we're sitting here with, how many home runs are hit nowadays? I mean, we've got guys at 32 at the break, right? We had a guy hit 62 last year. We don't need more home runs. We've got more home runs, right? They juice the balls all the time. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Give me mammoth 500, 550, 600-foot home runs. Let's see how far we can get these guys to hit the ball. They're the best home run hitters on the planet anyway. How far can they hit it? Not how many can they hit. That's what I would try to change this format to. I think it would be better.
Yeah, I always thought that the old format was pretty cool, and maybe they could find a way to incorporate, like, you get, if you hit the furthest home run in the round, you get like a +5 or something. Like, it might be cool. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. And we'll see what happens. I think there's definitely some tweaks that could be made for sure. And the other thing too is, like, I don't think it's fair that I don't like the bracket. I think they need to go back to just doing the rounds, because I mean, like, Vlad Jr. shouldn't have made it out of the first round, and the fact that he faced Mookie Betts, who didn't even practice for the home run derby, and just, like, he went forward where, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's a show for the fans, which is cool, and to showcase some of the young players and some of the big, good power hitters of the game. But yeah, I'm with you. They probably do need to change it up a little bit again. And I think that the worry on their side is with Luis Robert getting hurt. They haven't had an injury from the home run derby, and honestly, I don't think it's a serious thing. I'm sure he'll be playing Friday, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of go back away from the timed round and the trying to hit him really quick. And the other note is that, like, the pitcher matters so much too. Like, that was one of the things. Like, they kept throwing, like, sliders to Pete Alonso last night, which is kind of funny. But the pitcher, like, determines as much as anything else. So you can't take any pitches.
Yeah, would you guys be against a machine? Using a pitching
not
machine
at all.
at that point?
I mean, not really. I mean,
they kind of do it. There's some BP that does it anyways, so.
Yeah.
But, to mention one of the other highlights is Adley Rutschman and what he was able to do going from left-hander and then switching around to right side in bonus time and going 7 of 8. I mean, he still ended up losing in the first round to Luis Robert, but
that was cool.
It was still a cool. We saw Jose Ramirez do it last year, but he just didn't have any. Like, I think he did it at his timeout. He switched from left-handed to right-handed, but I think he only hit like one more homer, right-handed. But it was still pretty cool to see Adley, kind of jump around that way and go 7 of 8 right away in that 30 seconds of bonus time.
Oh yeah.
Adley's got that. He's the video went around afterwards where he went and hit with, like, the Baseball Bat Bros. It's a YouTube channel. Back when he was a minor leaguer, and he hit just absolute bombs and switching sides, and you knew Adley was going to do well in that. Even though, right? I mean, even if it was just like this style, but instead of the head-to-head, it was the timed format where you put up your big number, and then the top 4 big numbers have to go. Maybe seed that as the bracket where you're going head-to-head for the championship. Maybe that should be the format. Yeah. Something to that effect. I just think you do need a change, because you don't want to be ruining the chance for a guy who, like, especially like Adley, who could have maybe gone on a run in the format if he gets another chance. But
Yeah.
no.
What
about?
Good.
I was
So what
saying,
about? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that just talk about the game. They're having the Mariners Hall of Famers come out, and Ken Griffey Jr. come out. He knows a thing or two about the home run derby.
Yeah.
Edgar, Ken Griffey,
yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah, those guys are legends. I don't
For
know if
sure.
you guys have you guys watched the Mariners docu series done by John Boys and SB Nation.
Mm-mm.
I have not.
You guys are gonna need to watch that one. It's a good like 3 hours. It's like a long movie. It'll take a couple of days, but
Yeah.
it details the history of the Mariners, right? And you know, if we look back, the Mariners have had some of the best teams of all time, right? This is a team that won 116 games. You know, detailing that, you know, they've had Ichiro. He'll be here, right? When Ichiro's available for the Hall of Fame, he's gonna be here. You know, there's Jay Buhner. You know, they've got just so much like awesome, you know, MLB talent, but for so long it was a poverty franchise, and then once Ichiro was gone, I mean, it felt like a poverty franchise again.
Yeah.
And it was last year that they broke the longest playoff drought, I think, in pro sports.
What's it? Yeah, I think it was definitely longer than the Kings.
I think it was the longest drought in pro sports right now, or last year, and they broke it. And you know, but that docuseries details it. I mean, if I'm sure you don't remember, you guys might not have been alive at that point. 1995, if the Mariners don't go to the playoffs in 1995, they don't stay in Seattle. They get moved, and then you don't have the Mariners today. And Edgar Martinez ripped a double down the line, won the game for the Mariners, and he scored Alex Rodriguez as a 19-year-old rookie. Who this is another guy who spent a bunch of time in Seattle, but yeah, that team, you know, really special moments. And you know, even I think back to when they made the playoffs, right? The Cal Raleigh home run, that's a special moment. Like, a couple years ago, they I think Ty France, I can't remember if it was Ty France or somebody else. Maybe it was Mitch Haniger.
Haniger.
Want to keep him. It was Haniger.
Yeah,
it was Haniger. Alive, like on the second to last day of the season. Like, the Mariners are always a special team, man. It's
the Haniger thing was really cool too, because like he had been the most long tenured Mariner. He had been there for several years, and it was kind of, I think it was 2 years before his free agency, because he was hurt most of the year last year. But he'd kind of been the guy they had chosen to stick around and build around, and he was able to do that. And unfortunately, they didn't end up making it to the to the playoffs that year. But that was pretty cool. And you wonder how they haven't been better, because they've had some really good rosters, and I'm pretty sure they had like maybe 3 or 4 winning seasons since the last time they made the playoffs, which typically, like, if you win 84, 85 games, 1 out of 4, you're probably going to make a wild card. So, not every year, not every time you win 85 games, but like occasionally if you win 85 games, you're going to make it. And I'm pretty sure they've had some really bad years, but like they haven't bottomed out too often since then. So, it's good to see the Mariners last year get in the playoffs, and this, the All Star Game being there, it's a lot of momentum for them. They actually, we talk about the season a little bit. They got it back right above 500 right before the All Star break. They kind of went on a little bit of a improved streak, so they might be a team to watch in the second half this year too.
They're still a few games out of the wild card too, but that's a team with that kind of pitching that at some point they probably won't lose. Looking back, the Mariners had one season where they were the most unlucky team in baseball. Could have made the playoffs and didn't. And I think it was 2014. And then in 2016, they were one of the luckiest teams in baseball.
Yep.
Didn't make the playoffs.
Was that the Edwin Diaz 50 save season?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they won like a ton of 1-run games and then ended up not making it. Like, it's funny because the Mariners, to get that kind of drought, they won 90 games twice. In 2002, 2003, didn't make the playoffs, right? 90 games this year locks you in, guaranteed, pretty much, right?
Sure.
Like, with 3 wild cards, but they won 90 games the last 2 seasons. In 2021, didn't make playoffs. 3 wins, 3 times they won 90 games, didn't make playoffs. That's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It's probably going to take 90 plus this year to get into that third wild card
You know,
spot.
yeah, the
Yeah.
wild card spot is in the AL is going to be it'll be over 90. Yeah, we might not
Yeah, I mean,
make it to 90, but
you know that the Central is only gonna have one team, but like you look at the East, and the only thing is like the East is gonna. I know we have the balanced schedule, but the East is gonna play each other more than the others. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Yankees and Blue Jays or somebody didn't win 90 games, like the Yankees especially. And so you have to finish second in the West if that's the case. If you and win close to 90 games, and I think they could maybe do that.
Astros haven't been that good.
I know, and
you think the Rangers are probably going to be able to hang on.
Yeah.
But there's a long way to go, man. There's a lot of baseball to be played.
There is. You got the deadline here where teams are going to be able to make some big moves, and Rangers could be aggressive.
Yeah,
the Rangers have already been aggressive, right? They traded for
Chapman.
Yeah. Chapman. I don't know what their other needs are because I think their pitching rotation is in pretty good shape, and I mean. Their lineup's been awesome, so
yeah, it's been.
Maybe a corner.
They're looking
corner outfield.
Lance Lynn again.
Yeah,
that would be a good marriage.
Yeah, I mean a back end of the rotation guy that has struggled some this year. He's on expiring. That would make sense. It wouldn't have to give up much for him.
Yeah, and has the history there where he's been good.
Yeah, he does. And he's still striking a lot of guys out. And the White Sox, it's weird. Yeah. Like, you feel like some of it might be home run luck, but. I don't know. I mean, he's also dealt with injuries, so they wouldn't have to give up much for him.
No.
There's something to be said for a guy still being able to go out and throw for 16 strikeouts in a game, and no one else has done that this year, right? Like Spencer Strider hadn't done that, Gallen hadn't done that, none of the Garrett Cole hadn't done that.
Did Spencer Strider not have? No, that was last year.
He had it last year, but not this year.
That's last year.
Well, he just had and Lynn just had another game like this week where he struck out a ton of people too. How many was that?
To me, you're not.
Let's see.
Find it out. But to me, you're not. It's worth it, right? To go out and get a guy, even though he's got maybe a high ERA or something like that. When you're showing off games where you're picking up big strikeout numbers, having really deep 7-8 inning games. That's not a bottom of the rotation guy. Yeah. He might get blown up sometimes, but I think he can even fit in as their number 2 guy behind Eovaldi for a little bit.
So he struck out. It was 7 scoreless with 11 strikeouts against Toronto.
Yeah, I mean
that's one of the better offenses. Bottom of the rotation guys don't do that.
Yeah.
He's got the high end performance still.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be consistency, and I mean you see that a lot of times with aging veterans. I mean you've seen that with Scherzer and Verlander. Like they've had a couple games this year where they looked really really good, but they're not consistent because they just can't have it every single outing, and I think that's part of the problem that they've had. We'll see. Maybe Lance Lynn does have enough left in the tank, but I mean, I think if you're the Rangers, I mean, you've got a pretty solid rotation. Like maybe you get a guy that with that strikeout stuff and some of the outings he's had, he still obviously has the high end. So maybe you can get him to improve his consistency a little bit in the second half. Playing for a contending team. Lance Lynn's a real competitive guy. We've seen that a lot. Like that could be a big deal. And he's also got a lot of experience. That's something the Rangers don't have a ton of postseason experience. And Lance Lynn started a lot of playoff games when he was with the Cardinals. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. I think it could be a pretty good match, though.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you get him out of the White Sox, which that terrible, clubhouse type it's been, and it seems like it's been a bad situation in the last year or two there, and you get him to a team who is competitive in a playoff run, I'm sure you even see those numbers, skyrocket a little bit more. Or I guess come down as far as the ERA and FIP and stuff wise. Like get with a better team, a better defense, and like you mentioned, he's so competitive, and he's playing for a team that is not competitive at all, and knows that basically going out there they have no chance to win day in and day out. But it's funny as we see Garrett Cole on the screen right now. The Yankees made a big move this week that we wanted to talk about, firing their hitting coach and then hiring Sean Casey fresh off the MLB Network Studios stage to now be their new hitting coach. The mayor, he's one of the best personalities we have in baseball, but making the jump to a hitting coach, it's kind of funny. I wish him all the success, but go into a
Mhm.
situation there where I'm not sure he's going to help contribute all that much.
Sean Casey, and you look back at Sean Casey's career, right? That was always like one of those high average guys in Cincinnati, always kind of annoying to play against, but not really the kind of guy who was big on damaging the ball and a big walk rate guy back in his playing days. And now he's been broadcasting for a while. I don't know how about this move, but that said, the Yankees cannot be worse when it comes to offense right now. They have, I think, the third lowest or fourth lowest on base. I can look it up at that time. I can look it up. But I'm pretty sure it's like the third lowest on base percentage in baseball right now. And that's the Yankees, right? That's the team that just spent $360 million on Aaron Judge. They're currently at 300 on base percentage this season. It is fourth worst.
Yeah.
It's fifth worst, but it's ahead of only the Royals, White Sox, Athletics, Tigers, which are the bottom dweller offensive teams anyway. The Yankees shouldn't be there.
No.
Yeah, I mean the problem with the Yankees is that they built this roster with that. Knowing that might happen. I mean, they have a bunch of aging veterans that showed signs of regression last year, like Donaldson and Stanton and Rizzo. Like Rizzo's still all right this year, but like you look at. I mean, you're putting all your eggs in the Aaron Judge basket to have an okay offense this year, and obviously Aaron Judge is an unbelievable player, but he's had that injury history. He's been healthy the last couple of years, but it's been rough for him, and this year with the injury, and I mean, they just don't. I mean, their talent level's just not very good on offense. I mean, could you maybe bring in somebody that changes just a little bit of the attitude and I mean, I guess Rizzo and could maybe hit a little bit better, and Gleyber Torres is maybe a guy that could work with. But I mean, it's not like you've got a good bunch of Isaiah Kiner Falefas, Willie Calhoun, and you just
Billy
cut
McKinney.
Aaron Hicks. He went elsewhere. Billy McKinney's starting like every day right now for them. I mean, it's just there's not much there. I mean, so we'll see what happens. I don't think it's a hitting coach's fault. I think Cashman just went out, didn't do enough offensively for this team, and they didn't build any depth. I mean, they have no depth in their offense. So, and honestly, for their rotation's not very deep for that matter either. I mean, they've got some good pitchers, but it's not deep.
Yeah.
Jordan just came back this week. He looked pretty good against the Cubs. Worth noting, and I want to mention it. You said Josh Donaldson. Josh Donaldson has 15 hits on the season at the break. He's only played. He's only got 112 plate appearances. 15 hits on the season. He's hitting 152.
He's got like 10 home runs that thing.
Yes, 10 home runs. Yes, 10 of his 15 hits are home runs. That is a true swinging for the fences type of season.
What is his BABIP?
0.83.
Yeah.
0.83, and he's got a 465 slug. True. It's worth an 85 WRC plus. It's not that horrible, but it's one of those things where he's got like a 10% chance to homer, and that's all.
Yeah.
So that's tough. That's not the best. Doesn't help also that the Yankees' second best player right now is Anthony Volpe, who has been good, but his on base percentage and he's not that, he's a rookie, right? 90 WRC plus guy. He's just trying to learn, and we'll see. The Yankees are going to be better off, I think.
Better pay attention. Acuna's up there. He's homered off of Garrett Cole in the leadoff homer before.
In the playoffs? In the World Series?
Not in the playoffs. They didn't play Garrett Cole in the World Series.
I guess he was Yankees at that point.
He was Yankees.
They played the Astros. So.
Uh-oh.
That was cranked. Oh, what a catch.
Like... That was such a bad route to that ball, and he's still... I guess the sun's big there, but...
Yeah, that was in the sun. I love Adolis Garcia.
He almost dropped that.
Super cool for him to get a shot at starting the All Star Game too. That's like best case scenario type of performance for a guy who's not really expected to do anything. I mean, the Cardinals let him go after 2018. He was horrible. Rangers waited him out, worked on his swing, and he's only hit 30 home runs 2 years in a row. And this year he's on pace for 40.
Yeah,
he's playing good defense. Obviously, I mean he's a just a fun player. He's a run producer. He's the guy you can hit fourth in your lineup, drive a run home, because he swings at everything. So he's just he's gonna put the ball in play. Good things happen.
I think his walk rate has come up this year. I think too, which has been
he's doing so much
nice.
damage.
Yeah, teams are scared of him, but
Yeah,
and he's starting to select a little more.
He's up to 9% now. He was at 6.1 last year, 9.2 this year. And
A rate's
see
going down, walk
you
rate's going up.
Well, yeah, you see that 3% in walk rate is a decreased 3% in strikeout rate so far this year. I mean, exactly.
Ready, it went deep too.
So.
Oh my god!
Garrett Cole's getting whacked around. That's amazing.
Of course, there's the Rose Arena.
Look at him. That's great, man. Yeah, the AL's got some fun outfielders out there right now. Man.
Talk about two outfilders the Cardinals could have.
that's
for real.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
Randy Arozarena.
Or they could have, the Cardinals got outfielders. They just need to, they should have traded them for better pitchers.
To pick the right ones, yeah.
Pick the right pitchers.
And not trade away one of your pitchers.
Yep. I mean, they traded Sandy too, so.
That's what I was talking about.
For nothing. for a year,
Ozuna.
1 year of Ozuna.
Yeah.
Randy Arozarena this year has a 388 on base percentage and a 147 WRC plus. He has been really, really good.
He's good.
Yeah.
Mookie, who's homered all the time, and first pitch out. All right, first commercial. Let's. So this is just right. It's just a basic baseball game, right? Like,
yeah.
I would like something different here. I don't know what though, because a baseball All Star game, you want to see all your star players show off their skills. Did get to see two really good catches there, but that's at the behest of Seattle, where the ball doesn't fly very far. What should they do, right? Like, I think of like the NASCAR All-Star Race, or the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl's changed a bunch over the past couple of years, where it's a touch football event at this point. A lot of skill competitions. I'm wondering if this shouldn't be something more akin to that, but I don't know if that would draw in any fans.
As you hear about the NFL and the NBA just getting absolute crap for their All-Star games not being competitive, not being like, if you look at it, the MLB All Star Game is the most competitive All-Star game that is out there. I mean, I don't watch hockey as much, so maybe it's up there with with the competitiveness, but there's not really a different way of what you can do for the All-Star game to make it a better, more competitive aspect, or to make it more fun. It's like, I mean, you have the home run derby the day before. Like, they could make the week a bit more fun to kind of make it more of an event, where the game is kind of just the culmination of it. But like, I don't know. Even right now, like, they're trying to make it like draft, home run derby, and All-Star game. But I feel like a few years ago, like, the futures game was highlighted even a bit more than it is now. You used to have, what's the other thing they used to? The celebrity game used to be highlighted more than it is now. Like, and I'm sure you could add some more aspects to like a skills competition around it. But as far as like the game is concerned, I'm not sure what else you could do to make the All-Star game a better, more competitive game or event.
Mm-hmm.
At least.
I mean, with nothing truly on the line, I mean, it's going to be hard to get teams to be super, super competitive. The thing that's great about the baseball All-Star game that's different is, like, in other sports, like, contact is a big deal. Like, you have a lot of contact in, the NBA and obviously the NFL. There's a ton of, hitting and injury risk, and obviously there's some injury risk in baseball too, but a pitcher throwing one inning is probably the biggest injury risk you've got, or somebody getting hit by a pitch. And I mean, it's a game that baseball is a game that you can really, like, I mean, you can play a real game without having just extreme injury risk in one game. So I think that's something you can play a legit game, and just as long as you limit the pitchers to 1 or 2 innings each, and I I think that's something that's cool about it. Because I mean, I'm watching the NFL and the NBA games. I mean, even before the NFL changed to their weird stuff they do now, like they were just not fun to watch.
No.
So.
Yeah, I mean, baseball players are going to try. The one advantage is that the product of the All Star Game, that's never going to go down. Baseball is baseball. You're still going to get a baseball game. It's just, do you want another baseball game? You already have 162 times 30 to watch, right? There's a lot of baseball being played every day. This is just another baseball game, right? So, I don't know. Maybe there's something to be done, but...
Yeah, see, like, I think what you could do is if each like the game at least itself, I don't think you can change, but like an idea to make it more fun. If we're doing this whole aspect of every team must have a representative, like MLB does, like maybe you make some events that are like by division or something. Like, hey, the NL West has to go against the AL West or AL East or something like that.
There you go. Something to that effect. I would almost say you change the scoring system. You play a normal baseball game. It's Shohei Ohtani's hitting right now, by the way. He's kind of good at this whole baseball thing. Maybe you change the scoring, where like highlight plays, the big catches that just been made by the AL outfielders, that would be worth a certain number of points. And so you're playing a different game where you're hunting for showing off your all-stars, showing off your skills. I don't know. I'm spitballing because we can talk for a while. We got the game, but it's like
the only thing with that is, one, it's unpredictable when that can happen, and two, all you're doing is trying to set it up for more injury risk.
Yeah.
You're trying to make people show off and make the flashy plays, and like teams don't. I mean, that's kind of why the other All-Star games that kind of went into is like, hey, let's just make the flashy. Nobody's gonna play. Like, I don't know. Like I said, it's hard in my opinion to try and change the game.
Got it. You can run either way, third base or first base. So that's what it is. Batter can run either way. There you go. Change just like one little thing, but it makes it. Or no foul territory. Any ball hit on the field is fair game. I don't know, something to that effect. Ooh. Let's just have some fun with it. But Gallon, that curveball was.
Did you guys hear the chant, by the way?
No.
And the whole stadium's chanting, "Come to Seattle" when Shohei was up.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
Let's go. That's awesome.
To be honest, like that would be a dark horse for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Ichiro
of the history of Ichiro and Hisashi Iwakuma as well. Yeah. I mean, they've had some. The Japanese pitchers have gone there and done, or Japanese players have gone there and done well, and and they haven't been totally opposed to signing big contracts in Seattle. I mean, you remember Robinson Cano signed like a record deal there, so they might be interested, and they've got a window. It could be a dark horse team.
Well, remember, like the last couple off seasons, I mean, they were in on Chris Bryant, they were in on Trevor Story, like they've been in on potential big name people, and even like they traded for Luis Castillo and they got that extension done before he ever hit the market. Like, they're not afraid to throw around money in Seattle if the right player comes along, and they were interested in Ohtani when he first came over.
They were one of the finalists. It was
I think
it was
they
all
were the runner up.
It was the West Coast teams, so the Dodgers, Angels, Giants, Padres, Mariners, and then the Cubs were the original finalists. Yeah. And so we don't know how that's changed, right? A lot of those teams still make sense, but in my opinion, every team makes sense for a guy like Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Every team needs a guy who can both be your ace and be your cleanup hitter.
Yeah.
And now you have the DH. Like, I mean, that's why the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Padres weren't seriously considered as much last time.
The only team that doesn't make sense for Shohei is the Astros. He might have a DH that's as good of a hitter as Shohei is. And, I mean, obviously he's such a great pitcher, you would still want him on your team, but, if you're oh, wow.
Oh, he hit him in the face.
That's right, RC. I punched him in the face. Yeah. Dude, Sean Murphy's got a hose.
Oh, Cat's joined the stream.
But yeah, I mean, if you look at, like you want a team that doesn't have a great DH already, and like the Astros. But I mean, because then you're paying for an ace pitcher instead of both. So it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see what his market is. And I will tell you, there's one underrated thing, and I don't think he's going to go back to the Angels, but they have handled Shohei Ohtani extremely well with the way that they've handled his pitching and hitting. It's never been done before. They've worked with him, and they've kept him relatively healthy. I know his first couple of years he had, a couple little things, but like he's a guy that, I think at the end of the day, like somebody's going to have to come to him with a plan that's similar to what the Angels have done with him, because I mean, and teams that don't have a great reputation, like maybe the Mets with pitching injuries, like I don't know if Shohei's going to want to go there because of the issues, or there's some teams like I don't know. I mean, I think honestly the Dodgers have had some pitching injuries recently too, like a lot, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them. And honestly, like I don't know what I mean. I was gonna say something about trading. I've been so anti-trade Shohei for so long, but with all the injuries the Angels have, I mean,
I can't see.
I don't think it's gonna happen just because of Art Moreno. But
yeah, I was gonna say Art Moreno's not gonna let his ego ever get out of the way of doing that. But thing is, even like this weekend, like Shohei, he wants to go to a team that's competitive. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He is sick and tired of losing. Like this weekend, he hit like a mammoth homer. I think it was in the last game on Saturday, and ran around the bases, went right in the dugout. Nobody high-fived him, nobody anything. He kept a straight face and just like walked past everybody and then just sat down. And it's like, dude, like he's just
not a fun environment there.
No, it's not a fun environment. He's sick and tired of losing, and he warned them even like right after the season last year, like, I want to win. We need to be aggressive to try and win, or I will look to go elsewhere. And I mean, obviously you can't help that now.
I mean,
Trout
to their
got
credit,
hurt
I mean, they
again,
were.
but-
Yeah, I mean,
Right. That's,
Well, I
not,
mean,
that's not anybody's fault, but
Yeah.
the Angels the last few years have done a lot to try to help. I mean, they signed Anthony Rendon coming off of a top 5 MVP finish, and it just has not worked out. I mean, it's not like they haven't tried at all. I mean,
yeah, they made maybe some of our favorite moves in this past offseason. Not to mention they've got All-Star Carlos Estevez. Oh, here's Nate Eovaldi.
I mean, and then
who was easily the best All-Star or the free agent signing last offseason, I think. I think Eovaldi's just
he's been awesome.
I cannot believe he went for 32 years, $34 million for who is now the second guy out of the bullpen in the All-Star game. I mean, my goodness. I wanted to look up the big market teams that have had no DH performance or bad DH performance. San Diego's the worst. Yeah, San Diego's the worst. Mets are the second worst. Seattle is sitting at 24th. Texas is 23rd. Yankees are 21st. Cubs are 20th. Tigers are 19th. They don't want to, like, that's not a team that can win, but, like, that's a team that could really use a Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, that could kickstart you. And they've got the prospects to be able to make some trades.
Thing is,
get somewhere with it.
Like, I don't think Shohei Ohtani is going to go to, the Tigers. I mean, if he went, like, he's going to go to. And it depends on what teams will actually spend for him too. I mean, because you're going to have a lot of teams.
I was trying to just stick on.
It's going to be
Milwaukee's not
right. It's going to be the biggest contract we've ever seen.
Or like Tampa, Tampa's got the second best team in baseball right now, but they can't sign him because they won't pay. They can't pay for him. I mean,
Phillies were my last team there. Where the teams that are like the second half of the DHs.
Yeah, thing about the Phillies is that
too many DHs.
I don't think the Phillies already have DHs.
You can't you've got Harper, and you've got
Schwarber.
You've got Schwarber, and you got Castellanos, all DHs locked to long-term deals. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do if you throw Harper in the outfield to put Shohei at DH? You're going to have $100 million tied up in Castellanos or Schwarber just sitting on the bench. You're going to platoon in left field or something. Like,
that's not the move, but
center field Bryce Harper again.
I mean, and that's
move it back to
not
catcher.
Good.
Move Harper back to catcher.
Put Schwarber at catcher. They can both do it.
No, you might see a thing where, like, I know they still have Reese, but like Schwarber could play some first base, some left field. Like, you can work around it, but also they have Trey Turner on a big time contract as well. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the end, Wheeler. I mean, they're gonna have
Nola's a free agent.
Yeah,
they're gonna
I
have
think so.
to if they're gonna re-sign him. I mean, and who knows? He might sign somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah, and they signed Taiwan to what? What did he get this year? Like 18 a year as well.
He got like
70.
yeah, he got a lot. And
So, like,
I mean,
I'm not
when
saying
it comes to the
Middleton can't
Phillies,
spend
like
money, but
right. Well, when it comes to the Phillies, like they're a fairly aging roster. You know, you got your star players are all 30 or older, except for I guess Turner's
30.
Harper's 30, isn't he?
Yeah, I think
Now-
Trey's 30 as well.
This
Yeah,
year.
Trey's
They're all-
29
yeah.
or 30. I mean, they're all 30, and like these next 2 years are like the years they have to be good because I mean Philly will spend, but they're not going to spend at the level of the Mets and the Dodgers. I mean, they have some form of a cap, and I think they've kind of got to the point to where like there's not a lot more they can spend. And I'll tell you one other thing too. Dave Dombrowski's got a really good history of being able to put together championship contending teams, but everywhere he leaves, those teams turn into absolute like nightmares just because of the lack of analytics, and I don't think he drafts very well. And I mean, like you look at the only one that kind of turned it around quick was the Red Sox, and
Well, they have
it's-
unlimited resources over there.
right, they have so many resources too. But I mean, and the Phillies have similar resources to the Red Sox. But I mean, look at the Tigers. The Tigers have a lot of resources, and I mean,
Well, and he
left
leaves
them, and they went.
he leaves the farm depleted too, because he's one
Yeah,
of the
right.
most aggressive at making trades and
The big trades.
Yeah.
the big trades. So,
So.
But
In that case, I mean, I would cross off both Phillies and Tigers just because I think Shohei's intelligent enough to see where the directions of some of these teams are heading. Right, teams that are pointed up, teams that are pointed down.
Yeah.
You're looking at. He's looking long term, right? Because he's going to sign a deal that's 10 plus years for a number
Right.
that will be the most expensive contract in pro sports. I think that's pretty safe. And I think he'll still be underpaid by the time we get there because of everything he does off the field and on as a popular player.
yeah.
Yeah.
The eyes coming to your team is
I think
absolutely worth the contract.
Oh,
I think that's what's going to end up being the big deal with him is that I think there's going to be some hesitancy from teams thinking, how long can he actually do this for? We've never seen it before, like, and they might get scared, but then they'll realize like the amount of money the ownerships will realize the amount of money that this is going to bring in from that international audience and that the fan support he gets, regardless of whether he's healthy for the next 10 years. Like it's going to boost your franchise. So that's definitely a kind of a take that's going to be made, and we'll see. I mean, there might be teams that get involved in this because honestly, there's a chance that Shohei's contract kind of pays for itself when it comes to like that kind of thing. So, like if you're a team that's willing to spend money but maybe not like outrageously. Of course, Araya is single.
Luis Arias single. He's next on the discussion
Yeah.
block for sure. But
And I mean, you look at like teams like maybe the Braves, the Cubs, the Astros. Well, I mean, we talked about the Astros wouldn't spend for it, but like those types of teams that have high payrolls and are willing to have high payrolls, but maybe they have that limit of exactly how much they're going to spend. Like this is one of those things that you get Shohei and your limit then goes up because he's bringing in so much more money.
Right.
So
and then
it could really
you have
pay for
interest,
itself.
right? You have interest from players. Players come to you and say, "Hey, I want to play with Shohei." Right? I think that's
Yeah.
going to be kind of the direction of things. I mean, we're already kind of seeing it, especially with Trout, right? A big reason that Shohei went to the Angels originally was he wanted to play with Mike Trout. Mike Trout was the best player on the planet at that point. Shohei wanted to play with him. The Angels didn't put anybody else with those guys, but the two best players on the planet played together for a while. And I think that the Yankees might have tried this with Aaron Judge a little bit, but you're gonna see. I think Shohei's got more gravity than other players in this caliber, just because of what he brings. As a Japanese-born player as well, with that respect. We saw him in the World Baseball Classic. He was electric.
Yeah.
With that comes a lot of respect and a lot of I want to play with that guy because that guy is so dang good. He can help us win a championship, right? And then I can help us win a championship. So, It's a big advantage, right? And that's why I think you can't underpay him. You can't.
Yeah.
Having him makes you a valuable destination for any free agent because you got Shohei Ohtani on your team. That's right down the middle, Sean Murphy. What are you looking at?
You know,
Just kept saying that splitter.
and you got to think, when it comes to the preferences, we talked about Ohtani. Like, what, 7 of his 8 teams were West Coast teams, and then there was the Cubs.
Right.
So
The Cubs.
and mostly the foreign-born players, especially the Japanese players, usually have preferred the West Coast because it's kind of closer to the time zone, the closest that they can get to the Japanese side. But as far as Ohtani itself, like, you guys are absolutely correct. It's going to pay for itself. The jersey sales you're going to get over that time alone from whatever team gets it, the fan buy-in from that team, like, he immediately is going to make your team a competitor and want to pack the stands for it. But also, like, at the, we were talking about at some point where is it going to meet at the head of what he's able to do, what he's doing right now. How long is he going to be able to be an ace level pitcher, starting pitcher, I should say, and to be one of the best, if not the best DH in the league? What does that look like? Now, as he ages, is this somebody, we've seen it in the World Baseball Classic, is he somebody that you move to the pin? And hey, like, we're going to have a lights out guy who can come in for 2 innings at a time, like once or twice a week, and maybe if you want to make him a full-time closer, then you can do that. And just let him focus on hitting more as he ages. What does that do for his bat? I mean, we're talking about a guy who's already hitting 300 this year, 181 WRC plus, a 663 slugging, and he's focusing on hitting half the time. Like, what would he be able to do if he's able to focus on that the entire time? And then, like, hey, you're going to come in for, an inning here to just give me your best stuff. And then what does this stuff look like at that point? Like, what's that velocity going to look like? What's it, the sweepers? I mean, we saw it in the World Baseball Classic. It was over 100 every single pitch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing to look at. And, I mean, that's kind of goes back to what I was talking about, like, with the plan for teams. What are they going to do? Each team that it's looking to court Shohei Ohtani is going to lay out a plan for him, like long-term plan. Like, that's going to be part of that. Like, the Angels have done for all the mistakes the Angels made. They've done an incredible job of managing Shohei. Like, they've let him hit and pitch. They've kept his workload at a manageable level while still getting him out there where he's been able to be really, really valuable to the team. At the plate, like, they've done whatever they've done, like, in the off season and his training and stuff has been incredible. Another team's gonna have to come to him and say, hey, like, we can repeat this. We're gonna do this, and then long term, like, we're gonna start pitching you every 7th day, or we're gonna start, giving you more days off at the plate as you age, or maybe like 5 years. You're going to start, and then we're probably going to look at moving to the bullpen so we can keep you fresh after that. Like, that's something that the teams are going to look at, just talking to them about. But I was one other thing too. I was going to say one other team that we haven't really mentioned. I wonder if the Red Sox would be interested, because I mean, they've had such a history of players, Japanese players, and Yoshida's there now, and they were, they seem to be pretty good buddies from World Baseball Classic. So. That might be an interesting one too that nobody's really mentioned whatsoever, and it's a competitive roster around him, and they need a pitcher. So
don't give Harrison any more ammo.
Like, you can't. My one thing though is that you can't go, well, what if he goes to join a Japanese player, because the Cubs have Seiya Suzuki, the Padres have Yu Darvish. I think he's got his pick across the league in terms of buddies. And then also you're looking at, guys like Roki Sasaki are going to be available and coming over soon, right?
Well, I think
teams are going to be interested on him.
Roki's 2025, right? 2026.
I think he's in 2 years.
No,
he's a ways off.
I think Yamamoto is able to.
Yamamoto.
That's who it is this year.
I think
Yamamoto can come this year. I think Murakami can come in a couple years, and then the following year Roki's only 19, and typically these Japanese pitchers aren't able to, they don't get posted until they're like 23, 24. So
yeah, but we're gonna have a lot of Shohei talk coming this off season and even coming
might
to
be
trade
next
deadline.
couple of weeks too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rumors have kind of starting to start trickling out. So it really depends on what the Angels look like. I mean, over this next few weeks, if that's really going to be the thing. And like you said, if Art Moreno's ego is going to have to get out of the way for it, because I don't think there's a way that Shohei goes back and Yandy Diaz hits a homer. But
Well,
talk about a guy who's been insane this year too.
Mitch Keller's pitching, so that means the offense is starting.
That I was gonna say. You
That's
brought in
Cy
Mitch Keller
Young
instead
Mitch
of Justin
Keller to
Steele.
you.
That's what you deserve.
That was a hanger, and Yandy
Yeah.
just smacked it in first run of the game. So
I mean, talk about a
there
guy
you go.
who's really broke out this year, though. I mean, both
Yeah.
of them really. Yandy's really. I mean, the batted ball
Yeah.
data has always been there and has been insane. But Mitch
Mhm.
Keller, I mean, since he's kind of developed that sweeper / cutter, he's
Yeah.
really taken that next. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we had somebody ask, "Is he a Cy Young favorite?" We kind of chuckled at it. He's not maybe a Cy Young favorite at this point, but
Good,
he's
though.
turned into a
He's an all-star.
frontline starter. I mean, yeah, he's turned into a frontline starter for that Pirates team. I mean, if you're talking about, I mean, we're going to talk about the draft here in a little bit, but if you're talking about in a few years, you have Mitch Keller, Paul Skeens, this kind of top of your rotation. I mean, that's not a bad 1-2 punch to have right away.
Yeah. Quinn Priester's
Strong.
there still too, and
Yeah, he's kind of
I mean, they've
struggled,
got-
but
yeah,
That's
I mean they got some interesting arms.
Yeah,
There's that
Roansy
sweeper.
Contreras has been up and down,
Yeah.
but I think they want to lengthen him back out into a starter. He's a guy with a high 90s fastball.
they'll still have Rich Hill in 10 years
Yeah.
when he's still able to pitch and throwing 80% 73-mile-an-hour curveballs and just being effective.
Rich
Something
Hill.
to it, man. Zach Greinke and Rich Hill have made a long career out of just being able to go out there every day.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. Andy has a 165 WRC plus coming after a 146 WRC plus last year. He has been a elite first baseman for the Rays. This is age 30 and 31 seasons these last 2 years.
Yeah.
He's
What
been around
was-
for a while actually.
What
There's
was that
still-
trade, by the way, that they got him in from the Guardians? I'm trying to
I
see
don't
what
know.
that was. I think it was for Jake Bowers.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, Jake Bowers in a 3-team
That is
deal with
cr-
Seattle. That's when
crazy.
So Bowers and cash from the Rays to the Guardians, Edwin Encarnacion and a competitive balance pick to the Mariners. And
Oh,
then
that's right,
Carlos
Edwin.
Santana from the Mariners to the Guardians, along with Yandy Diaz and a minor league righty
Okay.
as Cole Sulzer.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean
was-
that makes him the best player out of that trade, right? Like not even close.
Yeah, but I mean that's one of those trades that you almost don't fault them because, like, I mean Yandy he didn't do anything in Cleveland, and he's broke. He's just a late breakout guy. I mean, and he can still get better. I think like that's the scary thing with Yandy. His plate discipline is so good, and he's still inconsistent with hitting the ball in the air. I mean,
Yeah, he's
Like,
like doubled his launch angle this year.
he has, and he's still inconsistent with it. With the trend that he's done now, he is 31. He's not young, so it might not last. But I mean, the trend that he's been on, he could put up a huge year. But he's definitely a fun player. I guess he's maybe a tiny bit reminiscent of Justin Turner, of just guy who was an decent prospect and went up to the big leagues and did okay for a couple years. Was a legit big leaguer and then had a late career breakout. And went in a different organization. So playing third base, and I guess Yandy played third base last year some. So I guess he's a third baseman too. But some swing changes can go a long way for guys like that.
We didn't get a chance to talk about him. I do want to mention Luis Arias, who does hit a single in the All Star game. Still, he's hitting 383, and that he just did what he does, man. It is so crazy to me that what we're seeing is like a 99th percentile outcome for a contact hitter.
Yeah.
But he's such a skilled hitter that you can go, well, this BABIP's high. Like I just feel like this guy knows how to get the barrel to the ball and put it wherever he wants to. He's got the best bat control I've seen of anybody. Like when he's playing against your team, you go, well, I hope it's a single this time, not a double. If you just keep him at first base, that's fine.
He's a lefty
Like,
Nick Madrigal.
I mean,
Just
if
worse.
Madrigal doesn't have this kind of back control, it's the
I know,
problem,
I'm
right? If
just
Madrigal
joking.
did, right, you're looking for a guy
Yeah.
like Luis Arias, right? You want
Yeah.
Nick Madrigal to be Luis Arias. You want who was the prospect who went in the draft who has really high? Oh, it's Jacob Wilson.
Jacob Wilson.
Yeah.
You want Jacob Wilson to be Luis Arias, right? You're hoping if he can just hit a single every time, right? That's a guy who struck out twice in college baseball this
Yeah.
last year. He's
Did-
got really
he's
good
got
bat to ball skills.
I was gonna say, doesn't Jacob Wilson have some form of power too? Like, I don't think he's got like huge power, but it's bad. I mean, it's not Luis Arias. Like,
It's
you know.
it's not great. His issue
Yeah.
is that he doesn't have power, and you
Right-
wonder
right,
whether he'll
but-
be able to get to any. That was
He's not
what
a
we talked
20
about with Greg.
he's not a
last week.
20. He's not a 20 power. Like, he's probably a
Greg
35
him at
power.
30.
Like, Arias is a 20. Like,
He's a guy who can get power out of because power, raw power and game power are two different things, right? I would say Arias has higher game power than he does raw power. Arias is not a big guy, he's not a strong guy, but he can get the ball where he can get a double or a triple out of it, right? Like he can put the ball in the gap or down the line pretty easily, and you can generate power that way, right? Nick Madrigal, that's a guy with like no power, right? Like no raw power at all. The only way he's really able to get into something is if he, swings with all his might, and then that ball just barely clears the fence. Arias has that like, let's pull the ball down the line. He can kind of, whatever bat control he uses, man, he can do it, and it feels sustainable to me. I just haven't watched him, and you see him in the
Yeah.
All Star Game and do it again. It feels like something. I don't know if he can hit 400, right? He's hitting 383. I don't know if he can hit 400.
I think.
This is very Tony Gwynn-esque.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think
say
he'll end up
20.
somewhere in that 360 range at the end of the season. Because I think he's like a true talent 340 hitter, which is incredible. I mean,
Right.
and
It's the best
And
contact hitter in baseball.
yeah, and honestly, you've got dang Arcia. You've got he's been doing that a lot lately, and honestly, I was kind of hoping that I was wishing after a little while that he wasn't going to play the All Star game because I think he just needs some time off. He hadn't played a full 162 game season because he's been a bench player and a utility guy the last few years. I think he's maybe just wore himself out a little bit, but
That's why I'm almost glad Dansby is hurt actually because
Yeah, I
I don't. Stroman stepped out of
yeah.
this game too. I'm really rather glad the couple of Cubs that did make the All Star game
yeah.
took it off. I think there's something to having this time off, right? And Justin Steele, obviously, first All Star game, he's here. The other guys didn't even travel; they're taking their rest time.
Yeah.
I love that. I think there's
Like-
absolutely something to that.
And like, I mean, the thing that, I mean, those guys like Dansby played 162 games last year. I mean, he's used to it. Like Arias, not Arias. We were just talking about him.
Arcia.
Arcia, he last year he played like 100 games. I mean, 110 games because he played a lot when Albies was hurt. But it seems like just him having a little bit of time off would be really really nice. But and he still gets a few days in a row here after today. He's got tomorrow and Thursday, and he'll only play an inning or two today. He had Monday. I mean, it's still a light work week for these guys. They're not getting as much rest as you'd like, man.
Oof.
Yeah,
Sonny Gray, man. I tell you,
pretty.
I've seen Sonny Gray pitch way too much. He pitched in the Reds against the Cubs a lot.
Yeah.
He dominated the Cubs every time. Couldn't figure him out. I've never understood why he ended up having any issues because he went to the Yankees and had his issues there. Sonny Gray is the type of guy that I am not shocked at all that he's having a really good All-Star level season. He's got such filthy stuff. His slider just falls off the table, man. It's such a good slider. And he just struck out Acuna, which
Yeah, it's hard to. Acuna's to turn in I think he's like the 5th hardest player to strike out in baseball right now, which is crazy. I mean,
that's insane.
Like
We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It was just you and me. I mean, that was just.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Acuna that I think is interesting is he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot more than he has in the past, and basically like his ground ball percentage is lower, but honestly he's still hitting the same number of fly balls. Like
Just getting the ball in play more.
he's hitting the ball so much more in play. That's why his ground ball rate's up because with those extra balls he's putting in play on the ground, and but those are finding gaps a lot of times too, because he hits so hard anyways. Like,
And he's
I
a
mean,
top tier athlete. You just need to get the ball in
right?
play when
Like,
you're that fast.
it's really incredible what he's done this year. But yeah, speaking of, we were talking about Sonny Gray. Like, we haven't, that's one team that's very interesting. That's one team that's very interesting is the Twins. They came out, last year they had this good offense and they were awful at the plate. I mean, awful on the mound. And this year they've got this like really good pitching rotation. They did a great job. They brought in Sonny Gray, and they brought in, I guess they brought in Sonny Gray last year, but they brought in Pablo Lopez, and like now their problem is their offense. And it's going to be interesting to me what they do at the deadline, because in some aspects, like, you want to get a bat, but I mean, part of their problem is that like Buxton hasn't hit like he has in the past. Like, you've got Correa hasn't. I mean, he's hadn't been healthy. It doesn't seem like, and he hadn't hit. Like, I think they get Jorge Polanco back soon.
Yeah.
And I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what they do. I mean, and of course they did double down on the high strikeout guys that have poor. I mean, they got Gallo and Michael A. Taylor too, but we'll see. It's gonna be very interesting to me what ends up happening.
Freddie is awesome, man.
Yeah, he is.
I love Freddie.
He's fun. But
he's a
cannot complain
great
about
dude.
Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
Never will, man. He's
No.
that dude. So, good question. Freddie Freeman, I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer at this point, right? Like, he just needs to kind of go off gracefully.
Yeah.
First ballot Hall of Famer, right? Like, 100%.
If he continues, I mean, like if he retired tomorrow, no, but if he continues to be at least like half the player he is now for the next 4 or 5 years, like, he's going to be, I think he'll be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's already got like 50 WAR almost, and he's got
54.
He's probably got a couple more. He's got
over, he's going to say he's
54.1.
54, yeah. I mean, he's got over 50 WAR, and I mean, if he gets
an MVP,
I mean, he's got an MVP. He's got a bunch of All Star games.
Yeah.
He probably needs to get to what he's not to 300 home runs yet, is he?
I mean, he got it this year.
He did get it. He just got it this year. I mean, there's a good chance he gets to 400 home runs and
over 2,000.
Get a couple of those counting milestones, and
Sonny Gray struck out Smokey. So.
Yep.
There you go.
So
Freddie's just incredible, man.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. I think back to 2015 or so when you had Freddie Freeman, Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Rizzo were all kind of the big three for Joey Votto, right? The big first baseman in the National League. And you come down now, right? Votto's kind of end of career, but still there, right? But he looks like a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Right? Goldschmidt's looking like a Hall of Famer, just won an MVP.
Goldschmidt's gonna be close.
Freeman looks like a Hall of Famer. Rizzo's got a World Series trophy, but he's the only one who doesn't have the MVP. He's kind of like the one who may have fallen off of that Hall of Fame trajectory, and so that just blows my mind, because even back then, like, we were looking at just like, you could tell you were looking at 4 of the greats to play in this era. And I would say for sure 3 of them are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, Rizzo is probably not going to make it. Part of that might be due to his back injuries. Just those nagging injuries, I think, have held him back for 3 or 4 years now. But I mean, Freeman is most likely going to make it. Votto's a total lock, and I mean, Goldschmidt's, I think, probably going to make it, but he's going to be kind of close for me. But I think he'll probably make it. I'm not a big Hall guy, so
winning the MVP to me is the thing that's going to knock him over. I mean, he's at 57. He's got more WAR right now than Freddie does.
Right. There's worse players. There's worse players in the Hall of Fame than Paul Goldschmidt right now. I mean, like a bunch of them, and in recent ones too. I'm not talking about somebody that got voted in 1950 because they hit 400 one year in the 1910s or something. Like, I'm talking about guys who are like in the last 30, 40 years. There's comparable players. I mean, you look at like Todd Helton, and you look at Jeff Bagwell as guys who, Fred McGriff. I mean, those guys are both better than Fred McGriff. Like, so Fred McGriff is great, but
if you're talking about Paul Goldschmidt in that tier of player, he feels like a Hall of Famer to me, right? Like, and that's I obviously hate that he's a Cardinal. But he's just the toughest dude to get out, man. Every single time.
Yeah.
It is crazy to me
He's
because
good.
you had him playing at the same time as Freeman, at the same time as Rizzo, and these guys completely revamping that first base position by playing a game of high walks, lower strikeouts, consistent production over the full season. Those were guys that you could pencil into the lineup against anybody, and it would work out. And again, Rizzo's the one who's fallen off the cliff a little bit, but you're still seeing
Well,
great production from those types of guys, right? And from Freddie and from Paul and from Votto.
The crazy thing about Freddie and Paul is that they were the best two in the National League in 2015, and they still are in 2023. I mean, like, who's better in the National League than those two? I mean, Olsen's close, but
yeah, Matt Olson would be
he's the other one.
But,
Well, I don't think so. I mean, he's not in the same. I mean, Pete Alonso is a good player. He's not in the same tier as Freddie and Olsen and Goldschmidt, and Goldschmidt and Freddie are a little above Olsen to me. I mean, I don't know. Olsen's put up insane numbers this year, though. Like,
he's been good. You can't. The tough part is first basemen don't really have that big WAR. Isn't really Matt Olson's job is to go out there and club home runs, right?
Yeah.
Like he's sitting here with 72 RBIs at the break. Like he's gonna be a monster. He's gonna put up some monster overall numbers.
I mean, I think he led National League first baseman in WRC plus at the break. He might have lost it on the last day to Freddie, but like he was leading, or at least close to leading. He came back because he had just such a hot June. But I just gotta look real quick. I have to use my phone since we got the game playing up here.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah, it looks like Freddie did overtake him back, but he's got a 144 WRC plus, so
Matt Olson's that kind of guy who's kind of entered that conversation for being, the next great first baseman, especially given his big contract and the situation he's in the Braves. Worth noting that Josiah Gray has come into the game for the National League, so that's certainly something that's happening now.
Yeah, I mean,
I was hoping to get
a good
Justin Steele, but
you probably will.
There's still plenty of time.
Got a long way
Seems
to
like
go.
they're only going
They're
pitching per.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Actually, I'm actually curious. I haven't even looked at Josiah Gray. I didn't even know he was in the All Star game. 3.41 ERA. I mean,
the
not bad. He's
peripherals
walked
aren't
along a
great.
bunch of people.
Yeah, the peripherals aren't great, but I mean, like you said, the ERA is kind of good, and it's kind of a thing of every team needing an All-Star. Josiah Gray's kind of that guy, but can we?
Candelario should have been.
Where's Lane Thomas?
Mackenzie Gore's not.
Lane Thomas, Lane
Lane Thomas.
Yeah.
That's the issue with Josiah Gray is his fastball shape. He gets. Yeah. Oh yeah, but his fastball shape is he was up tanks.
Yeah.
I mean.
He and Mackenzie Gore have been okay, right? I would feel good about being in the spot the Nationals are right now, given that they just drafted Dylan Cruz, right? And we'll get into the draft a little bit as well as one of our topics here. But I mean, you got the Nationals in a decent spot, I would think, right?
And you got
forward.
James Wood potential that is there, and they got
a bunch of good talent right now. They've got a chance to be one of the biggest winners of the deadline in my mind. Candelario's not going to net you a bunch, but he will net you a top 20 prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a couple good relievers they could package off too.
Yeah, I mean,
you could package, and you could probably trade Lane Thomas.
I don't know if you would.
That's
the 27.
That's the interesting. That's the interesting one to me.
I don't think he's that old. I think he's still.
He's got what,
young.
2 years of control left.
27. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 27. He's a. Was he
3 years
agent?
control?
Free agent in 2026.
Yeah.
He hasn't even hit. He's gonna barely hit ARB this year. So yeah, 3 more years of control. I mean, you have Wood, Hassel, Cruz. You have that young outfield that you keep Lane Thomas around, and by the time that young outfield's ready, he's kind of that guy that you can ship off at that point, or make that fourth outfielder type. I mean, he's looked good this year, but I mean, it's his first year where he's really kind of breaking out. It's his first year where he's getting majority playing time.
No one's gonna give
Yeah,
you.
see, that's the
no one's
thing.
gonna give you the value that
No.
he's providing right now.
No.
I think, but
If he continues to do this for the rest of this year and then the first half of next year,
Oh, he's an easily
you
flip candidate.
you
then
start
year
to
and a half
really
of
get
control.
But I do think you're gonna want to wait a little bit longer to trade him, just because like teams are gonna be a little bit unsure of Lane Thomas and whether or not it was kind of a fluke.
Yeah.
At this point, but I think he's I think he's pretty good, and he's got the athletic tools. He's just never put it together until now, and we'll see if he's able to keep it going. But yeah, the Nationals are interesting. I mean, they got the return from the Soto trade. Gore's been pretty good. Gore's got to work on his command still. It's been rough. And then Abrams has been horrible. He's still really young, but
yeah, my thing
he's-
with
yeah,
him is you've got time. He's got
you do have time, but
and
he's
even if he ends up being a role player, you're okay. Like in the J.P. Crawford mold, maybe. Who doesn't hit a whole lot, but maybe he can learn some of that plate approach that can keep him in the lineup every day if he can get that glove a little bit better. But yeah, he's like 22, man. He's a kid. He came up
he's
really,
young.
really fast.
He's really young. I mean, that's the only thing going for him because I mean, at this point, he's got the athleticism too, but the bat has been horrible. The glove's been horrible. I guess his base running's okay, but yeah, I mean that hadn't gone well so far. But you still got James Wood. You've got Hassel. They got Hassel in the trade, right?
Yes.
It's the one. Yeah.
Robert
Yeah,
Hassel.
Hassel.
James
Yeah.
Wood's got a. That's where James Wood has a 106 WRC plus, and Double A is a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty strong, given that James Wood is a freak athlete. He's like 6'5", just a massive, massive dude. Hassel has not been good in Double A this year.
Yeah.
And he's
James
striking out a
Wood.
ton.
A couple things with the Nationals that do worry me. Their development hasn't been great recently. I mean, they
worth noting quickly though that Double A is using the pre-tacked ball. So I'm actually going to take all of what I just said with a grain of salt because Double A right now just isn't.
It's
the
weird.
results aren't comparable to what you would want to see from your guys. I know multiple teams moved players from Double A to Triple A just so that they could, get them out of the tax ball, see what they actually have with the Major League Baseball.
Well, when you're looking at at James Wood, I mean, he's a guy that he's so big and he's got such long levers. You wonder if he's going to end up being Aaron Judge didn't make the big leagues till he was 25 or 24 or something. Some of those guys that are so big take a little bit more time, and I don't know. I mean, their player development hasn't been great though. They don't have a good track record right now. I mean, they've, you look at some of their top prospects they've had in recent years have come up and not done well, and they've had a lot of busts on the mound and at the plate. I mean, you look at top prospects they brought in, Hybert Ruiz has been okay. Of course, he was developed mainly by the Dodgers, but he got to the Nationals and didn't really take off. And then you got Keyboom. Keyboom never made it. He was a top prospect. Robles. Really the last homegrown guy that I can remember that ended up being really, really good was Trey Turner. Or Soto, yeah. Soto was after Turner. But, I mean, it's...
And they got Trey Turner from the Padres.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, they kind of he really
blossomed.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah. So I mean, the Padres team that they've traded away is better than their current team. Yeah. I mean, it really is.
I don't know if it's that good. It's good, but I don't think it's that good.
Have you seen the Padres this year? Obviously, it's not been good for them.
I mean,
cannot believe a team filled with Tatis, Juan Soto, and them is just not able to do enough. It's just wild. Here's Damien's guy, George Kirby.
Yeah, George Kirby.
The fans have all stood up because it's George Kirby time.
Yeah. George Kirby, I watched him when he was at Elon, and his slider looked disgusting there. And
I mean, Damien had George Kirby on early. He was on George Kirby early. Can't confirm.
Big time. Yep. And he's turned into more than what even expected. I mean, I was thinking
he's sitting here pumping. He just threw 99 to JD Martinez.
Yeah, I mean,
He
I
throws
thought he
upper
was
90s.
I thought he was gonna come in and be like a 4 or 5 starter.
That's a double though.
But
hung a slider to JD.
It's just dingers. So what do you expect?
Not a dinger.
Nothing but just doubles.
Just doubles. But talk about a guy who went somewhere and revitalized his career this year. I mean,
Jason Hayward.
Both. Yeah. David Peralta. I mean, you talk about it, but
Jason Hayward.
he has like an 850 OPS or something like that this year.
Who does?
Look,
Hayward.
That's an
Hayward,
outcome
yeah.
that
I thought you meant Peralta.
expecting.
Peralta has up there too.
Yeah, I think I didn't know about Peralta, but
It's worth noting that JD Martinez is doing exactly what Damian and I said in the free agent discussion, and that Matt said he was going to struggle, and we were like, he's with the Dodgers now, and here he's hitting cleanup in the All Star game in a double.
I guess Peralta's OPS is still 757, but he's batting 283 this year.
Yeah, the thing about some of those guys, like JD Martinez made huge adjustments this year, and I wonder if he's going to be able to continue it. In the league kind of adjusts back, because his approach now is basically swing, and you start to get worried about he's attacking fastballs. You start to get worried about him chasing in the second half. But
so the thing is the Dodgers hitting coach is Robert Van Scoyoc, who is the guy who basically revitalized JD's career, and he kind of got away from what Van Scoyoc was having him do, and when they got back to training together this year, that's kind of when you saw the approach for JD start kind of taking back off. So
this is an interesting season though for Martinez, because he's very much selling out for power, selling out for home runs, selling out for swings. But it's working, and even if JD Martinez ends up with 38 homers exactly, $10 million for 1 year contract for a guy clean up in the All Star game and hit 30 home runs, and he's on pace for way more than 30 home runs. But it's like that's a massive success, just automatic, guaranteed, great signing.
Oh yeah, it did turn out to be a great signing. He
took about $8 to $10 million less to come sign in LA.
Yeah, I believe it too. Yeah, he was on my short list of guys to play DH for the Cubs. And
he said in one of his things that he had offers in the $18 to $20 million range, and he turned it down for multi-year, and he turned it down for the 1 year deal for $10 million to come to LA.
I think they'll probably just one up him too. I would predict that happening. It's just another 1 year deal.
Are you know who's a free agent this year?
Oh, true.
Hey,
there's Luis Arias again.
Yeah. No, it's not a coincidence that the JD Martinez has only signed a 1 year deal to be the DH when Shohei's becoming a free agent this next year.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so presuming the Dodgers don't get Shohei, I think JD will be back.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I think he would have to say, no hard feelings. You guys tried for Shohei. I get it.
Yeah. Not a bad backup plan.
Yeah.
So. It'll be interesting. Like if the Dodgers have been wanting to get Shohei. If they don't get him, it'll be interesting to see what they do, because they're gonna have a lot of money to spend. So are they gonna, if they don't get Shohei, are they gonna throw the bank at Nola and
I don't know if they
other pitchers?
I think they would just throw it at Urias then, and then you have Buehler. Buehler's next year. He's a free agent. And then also, I think then they would just kind of go a bunch of 1 year deals and then just load up for Soto the next offseason.
Yeah.
Like that's Soto's another guy who they've coveted.
Oh,
forever.
Lord, again.
I think Adolis is having some issues with the sun out there, man.
Yeah. He hurt himself. He's kind of grimacing. Guess he's all right. He did smack into the wall, but he's probably okay.
But it's not a coincidence that they're going to load up for Shohei, and they'll turn around and spend that money to other big time players in the next year or two as well.
Yeah,
but
it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see what happens, because I feel like Shohei is going to determine the market. There's going to be so many of the big buyers that are so wrapped up in the Shohei sweepstakes that I think
Yeah,
it's going to be a weird free agency because of that. Like,
it's going to be. I'm
There's-
afraid it's going to be one of the slowest playing off seasons until Shohei makes up his mind.
but then again, Shohei might have he might already know what team he wants to play for, and he's just not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Luis zooms
Yeah, he's got no. I think he's got 0 stolen bases this year.
on.
One. He had 1. Okay.
But
Now he's got 2.
Yep.
yeah, so
Well,
That's great.
it's going to be.
And Corbin Carroll at the plate too.
Yeah. It's going to be a weird offseason unless Shohei makes a move early on.
Yeah.
The thing about the offseason, though, is that all the talent is in pitching, right? And Shohei is so much more than just a pitcher that he's almost a separate category.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's his own position, and then you have the pitchers, and then you have the hitters.
Wow.
And I'm just very much wondering whether, guys like Aaron Nola, Julio Urias, I don't think they're going to be affected by Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, a team that knows they need a pitcher
Well,
is going to be discussing it.
It's going
But you're going to be able to, if you were going to get both, like one of those guys and Ohtani, I mean,
out.
I don't
We're gonna
know
get both.
because if you have a team that is looking for that top of the rotation starter, and then
I guess Shohei's your number one guy, bro.
Shohei's your number one guy, and then you're looking at Nola and Urias, and they're gonna have a market for teams that aren't interested in Shohei, right? But they're also gonna be very smart to hey, let me wait for Shohei, because then we're gonna be the top commodity there. Do you jump on the market beforehand, or do you wait for one of those teams to lose out on Shohei, and then come around and be like, okay, well now,
Here we are.
Here we are.
I've got some of my Shohei money to hand you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. But
Well,
The
here's
issue with the market this year is that there are no free agent hitters. Matt
Yeah.
Chapman is your number one hitter, and he has cooled off considerably since his hot April.
Yep.
I am very. It's going to be a big yikes.
There's going to be a couple of guys that sign big deals that probably normally wouldn't. Somebody like a Candelario type. Or
Even if you're sending a Candelario, I would think you're getting a Benintendi deal, right? Like 5 for 75. That's not going
See,
to break the rank
that's
any teams or anything.
but that's way more than he would normally get after one
No.
good season in free agency.
But he's had
was
other
not
good
hindered
seasons.
in the
That's the
offseason.
thing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he just got non-tendered and only signed a 1-year deal for what, $8 million or something, or it was even less than that,
It was
wasn't it?
less than that, I think.
I think you're gonna
I
see.
have a
I think you're gonna see the trade market for hitting really take off this year.
Yeah. You
That's
got
what you're going to see.
another guy that people might bet on the potential upside of Cody Bellinger. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not hitting the ball hard, but his plate discipline's back to being better this year, and he's playing great defense, and his results have been there.
That
So
could be your biggest free agent deal this year.
It could be.
I doubt it, but
Until he
I
gets
think
extended
Chapman
by
will
the
get
Cubs.
more. But
I don't know. I mean, Chapman's going to be 30. Bellinger's going to be 28.
the
Cody,
metrics on Bellinger are still not great, though. I mean,
So,
that's the thing.
having watched the most Cody Bellinger of this season, he's
I think you're wrong on that still, but
he's I might be. He's very much a guy who's good things happen when he is around the baseball. He's gotten some hits off of some bloops. It happened in the game I was at the other weekend. I think around 4th of July he hit one, and the Indians outfielders just stared at each other, and it dropped between them. That's a hit in the scorebook, but come on, it's not a hit. Those types of results were happening when he was in a slump, right? And when he's come out of that slump, he's scalding the ball. He's getting the results he deserves. He's been his April, and then now, right? It's being held down by that cold May where he was kind of bad, and then he got hurt, and they kind of tried to play him through the injury, and he came back a little early. And I would say the way he's been playing, he's getting the results he deserves, well, more often than not. And that combined with the really solid center field defense, flexibility to move over to first base and play that at an elite level, and then obviously the left-handed bat. He's done a lot of damage against lefties this year too. don't disagree that I think he's going to get a massive contract. I think this year, and it's gonna be tough for my little cubbies to retain him because obviously Scott Boras and all that.
I just, with the batted ball data on him, I just, and I'm not saying it's not deserving, but
I think
that
people
they get a big deal. But I think
Well,
people are
you
gonna worry about, like, he hadn't been good in 3 years until this year. He's been pretty good, and the batted ball metrics are still not great. So I think teams are gonna be hesitant to sign him to a big deal. I think he'll get a bigger deal than he got this past off season, but it's almost like yeah.
Thinking like 8 years, 150 million, right?
No,
like,
he won't get
something
anything
to that
near that.
effect. We'll see.
I don't think he gets anything near. I think he maybe gets, like, honestly, I would be shocked if he signed another 1-year deal for maybe
He's
a little
not.
bit more money.
he's not signing another 1-year deal.
But
He's a Boris client. There's no way he's signing a 1-year deal. Like,
But
Boris is going to use this as leverage,
maybe.
especially as much as the market is depressed this year for hitting, and you have the former MVP there who bounced back this year.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's going to get upwards of 20
to
million
get
a
100
year.
million. Yeah, he's
Like,
gonna get 100 million at least.
He's going to sign for somewhere
Yeah.
at least over 100 million for at least 5 years.
Yeah, he's gonna get a big deal, and I would say if you're giving him 200 million, you're overpaying, and that's
yeah.
probably not a good call. But if you're talking about 5-6 years of a guy who's going to transition from maybe an elite center fielder to maybe either a mediocre center fielder or a really good corner outfielder, like with MVP pedigree, with playoff pedigree, with leadership that is elite, coming from the Dodgers and Cubs, two great,
Yeah, I don't.
he's really valuable.
I don't hate the like 7 for 150. Like, that's $21 million a
And that's
year.
till he's age 35.
Yeah.
I mean, odds are good he's not just,
Whoa.
boy.
It'll probably be like 36.
Got nervous about Shohei on first. He was going to steal second.
But I mean, I would not be shocked. Now, if I don't think he signs a 1-year deal, but I think he signs somewhere for over $20 million a year. Now, I'm not saying it has to be 7 years, but just the way that the market is this year and the way Boris uses that to his advantage so much, like, he's going to play up Bellinger as like his biggest ticket this year, and somebody's gonna do it for that much. And bet on the upside of what you've seen this year and get him into your system and that, like, somebody's gonna do it.
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think he's one of the more, like, him and Shohei are the two that we just have no idea what it's gonna look like. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you can kind of
I
guess
wouldn't
on
be
some of these other
surprised
guys, but we just have no clue what their contracts are gonna look like.
They're both gonna be Dodgers too. It's gonna be cool.
I doubt that, but
Listen. So why don't we go ahead and kind of just highlight some of our favorite picks of the draft? Kind of talk a little bit about that now. We mentioned Paul Skeens going 1, Dylan Cruz going 2. Those were the consensus top 2 guys. You could pick either one and not be wrong. I think they went in the right order for their fit. I think Skeens' fit in Pittsburgh is a lot better than Cruz's would have been, and I think Cruz's fit in Washington is a lot better than Skeens' fit. But kind of the draft kind of started at 3, with you had the couple high schoolers of Max Clark and Walker Jenkins, and then you had Wyatt Langford from Florida. It ended up being Max Clark was the guy to go to 3 to Detroit. Wyatt Langford went to Texas at 4, and then Walker Jenkins went to Minnesota at 5. Those were the consensus top 5 players. We knew they were going to go 5. It was kind of the order. So what do you guys think, kind of as they went and their fit per team that they went to?
We talked at length about that with Greg last week, and I'm fully on board with every single choice that was made there. Tigers, Wyatt Langford's going to be a little bit more pro ready, a little bit quicker than Max Clark is for sure, and the Tigers' window seems to be not now. Is that gone? No, it's not. Cunha is not having any trouble with the sun.
no.
I like the bite-sized guys are on their way, so that's good. I'm big on Clark to Detroit. I think he's gonna fit their timeline better, and then Langford obviously Rangers. That makes some sense to me.
Yeah.
Jenkins, the Twins just picked best player available, and they're gonna, they're gonna have to overslot for Jenkins, but it's gonna be fine. Jenkins, Greg was kind of adamant that like Jenkins in a normal draft is like your 1-1 type of guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's same with Clark, right? So in my opinion, you had like 5 first overall picks in this draft, and you look down the order, and it felt like every pick was like, yeah, you could probably have seen them at 6 or at 18, right? Like Braden Taylor was getting mocked to the A's, went 19 to the Rays. And that's I feel like the Rays got like a top 10 pick basically with Braden Taylor. It feels that way. So I just don't feel like I feel like this draft was super deep. There's a lot of stuff I like about it, but yeah, I think the top 5 went kind of their perfect ways, and it felt like one of those times where the MLB draft didn't get it all wrong like it has in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all. I thought that, Skeens and Cruz, it's just kind of I think talent level is similar. They're both really, really, really good. The real difference is Skeens being a pitcher. I know some teams are just a little bit cautious taking pitchers at like 1-1 because of the injury risk, especially a guy like Skeens that throws so hard. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with picking Skeens because he's incredible, and he's honestly almost major league ready right now. And then you look at him, and then Cruz. I think that's a good. Cruz kind of fits the timeline. For a college player that's as successful as Cruz has been, he is maybe a little bit further away than like a Cruz is, and maybe even a little bit further away than Wyatt Langford. It's kind of from what I've kind of read and stuff. I really like what the Tigers did because Max Clark, like you said, he's a guy that could have gone 1-1. In fact, some people thought up until the end of the draft that he might go 1-1 on an underslot, but the Tigers were able to underslot him at number 3 and get a couple other guys who are kind of like top 25, top 30 prospects later on for overslot picks. So they kind of got a good. They don't have a deep farm system at all, and they kind of got 2 or 3 good ones out of doing that deal. And then other than that, I mean, you got I thought the Mariners draft was pretty good. They had all these first rounders because of it was cool. You finally saw the promotion incentive pick there at it was number 29, I think. So they got 3 first rounders. So they had a lot of money to spend and were able to get some good talent. Thought the Braves pick was interesting with Waldrop. He's a guy that might be pitching in the major leagues late this year as a reliever. He's got elite stuff. He's got to work on his command a little bit, but coming out of the pen, like in the stretch run, could be interesting with him.
I can tell you he won't be doing that. The problem with Waldrop is
he threw a ton of innings. Yeah.
The problem with Waldrop is his fastball shape. It's not his stuff. His stuff is gross. He's got one of the best splitters in the draft.
Yeah, they were saying he might have an 8 on his splitter.
And he's got a great slider, but the big issue with him was the shape of that fastball. It's very hittable, and MLB hitters are going to turn it around, and college hitters were turning it around. So, but a team like the Braves, that pick fits so nicely because the Braves are a team that can get to those analytics and can get better info out of that fastball and change it around a little bit. I'm a big fan of that pick. I begrudgingly really like the Brewers draft. I really liked Brock Wilken as a player there. I think he's very much the type of guy who could come out and be a really big bomber. And then they picked up Eric Bitanti in the 3rd round, which that was one of the guys I was kind of hoping the Cubs would pick up as a high schooler. So, the Brewers had a really good draft in my mind, and that's unfortunate, obviously, for me. Yeah. But some of these other picks were really, really solid. I liked Rhett Lauder at 7. Yeah. There were rumors going in that Lauder was falling due to an elbow issue. Don't know if those might have been pushed out there by the Reds to try and get his price down a little bit to meet where they were looking. But big on Rhett Lauder there at 7. I think that's a problem for the NL Central. And then I do really like Nolan Schonel at 10, I think, or 11 to the Angels. Right, yeah. He's under slot for sure, but he's the type of guy who can. We went and watched his videos of his swing after Greg mentioned him as the Cubs guy, last week, and his swing is very Shohei Ohtani. He's got the hands above the head and big leg kick, and that kind of thing is very enticing if you can get it there. Now his batted ball data wasn't so good, and if you were looking for a hitter with good batted ball data, Cubs took that guy, right? Matt Shaw's the batted ball guy. 500-foot home runs, couple of those in college this year. That feels good. I'm encouraged by that, but I do feel like if you're looking all the way down to Waldrep at 24, I think everybody got a top 10 level player until Waldrep at 24. After that, I think maybe things get a little more questionable as to whether or not those guys would have been top 10, but every pick just felt like, man, you're picking from cream of the crop guys for all the way down. It was such a deep draft.
Telling you, it was so exciting to see the 20th round pick of the Dodgers, though. I mean, that was just the best pick they've ever made.
Yes. DJ
Uiagalelei, Clemson legend.
Yeah, never played college baseball, and they drafted him 20th, which is great. So some of my favorite drafts, you mentioned Rhett Lauder at 7. I love what the Reds did, come back taking Ty Floyd at 37. That was another, I think, really great pick.
Upside pick.
Yeah, 2 high upside pitchers. Detroit, they took Max Clark at 3, and then they followed it up and got Kevin McGonigal at at 37, which is, Kevin McGonigal and Ty Floyd were 2 people that I wanted the Dodgers to take at 36, and they went 37-38. So those are going to haunt me forever. Another draft that I liked a lot, unfortunately, is the Giants. They took Bryce Eldridge, who is a 2-way player, high school. They got him in the first round at 16, going to go underslot there, and that allowed them to come back in the next round, which I think was they didn't have a competitive.
Second.
So second round, and take one of the top shortstops as well as Walker Martin. He's another high school shortstop, and then that they were able to follow that up with the compensatory round and took Joe Whitman, a left-handed pitcher from Kent State.
He's the number 1 lefty too, and he went 69th.
You could
pre-draft. He was the number 1 lefty.
Yeah, you could debate with him and Thomas White, who went right before the Dodgers at 35.
Right.
Actually, that's who they were targeting. But those are some of the drafts. The Rays might have had the best draft in this thing.
Of course.
But
I love the Rays draft.
But really, if I had to highlight 3, I really think the Reds, the Tigers, the Giants, they had some of the strongest drafs.
I really liked Colton Ledbetter too for the Rays.
Yeah.
Second round.
Second or third.
Good one. It was their third pick, but it was the second round.
One of the guys that fell that I think is a steal is Kyle Teal at 14 to the Red Sox. I think that was a perfect fit. He was a guy who was projected to be that first guy after the top 5. I mean, people were talking about looking at 6 for the A's, 7 to the Reds. Like, he was going to be in that mold, and fell to the Red Sox at 14. And at that point, I mean, you had to take the best guy there. I think they did. Yep. It's a need for them. They don't have a lot of depth as catcher in that system. So some very exciting ones. Arjun Niamala going to the Blue Jays at 20 as well was another really.
He's
really
interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. He did have tons of swing and miss in the high school this year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
He's a huge risky pick, but at 20,
he's an athlete, man.
Right?
Yeah.
You take swing and miss risk at 20 to see what happens, because Nimalo is ranked as high as 6 by some people, right?
Yeah.
You're fine with that at 20. You don't want to miss if you're up there in the top 10. If you don't want to miss, you're in the mid, the early teens. Cubs fans were mad, right, about not taking Kyle Teal, but then you look at Kyle Teal's performances with batted ball data, all that was below Matt Shaw. Positionally, Kyle Teal's a catcher, right? And that's his biggest skill. Yeah. And that's where I think he's going to shine. But then the Cubs went and picked up Michael Carrico, the 5th round.
Yeah.
And we talked about Carrico last week. He was one of Greg's favorite guys. And that's really exciting for me, right? We basically asked Greg, who's some guys you don't like after the 1st round, and Greg went, Josh Rivera, Michael Carrico, and those were the 2 guys Cubs took in the 3rd and the 5th. I was thrilled with that.
Yeah.
Cubs listening to the podcast confirmed.
Yeah. The thing about the Kyle Till, and he was college, right?
Virginia, yeah.
Virginia. That's what I thought. Yeah, that probably would have been an all right pick, but they were talking about the top 10. I think Blake Mitchell maybe was the Royals pick in the top
He was
10.
the number 1 pick.
At
Yeah,
8,
that's
yeah.
maybe the.
And I was gonna say that I saw something the other day that catcher was there had been maybe like the last catcher drafted. There had been like one catcher drafted in the last like 15 years in the top 10 out of high school.
Yeah.
And that it was somebody I'd never heard of, and it's just that's such a hard position to project, especially for an 17 or 18-year-old, because of the wear and tear it puts on your body, and even for college. I mean, you've occasionally had a couple of catchers like Adley and Buster Posey that have gone real early in the draft that are
college catchers though.
They're college catchers, but beyond that, like even a lot of college catchers in the first round have struggled at the in pro ball. I mean, you look at the guys like Mike Zunino, who turned into a decent major leaguer, but like he was thought of as like this generational catching prospect when he was picked, and he ended up being a decent catcher.
Good, good catcher.
Yeah, but you look at other
Joey
guys.
Bart. Joey Bart is the same.
Joey Bart. I was about to say Joey Bart. You look at Shea Langoliers is kind of looking similar. I mean, right now, and he might end up turning it around or something. But that's another guy that like picked in the first round, was defense first, and he's just been he hadn't looked great. I mean, he's got good defense, but that's something that you're seeing a lot of with catchers drafted early, and it's kind of scary to do that.
Yeah, we should mention Justin Steele did get in the game.
He's in right now,
so
I do want to talk about him.
There were some interesting picks of people that went a lot higher, like we mentioned. I know with the LA pick, they wanted Thomas White at 35. They had told Kendall George the day before they were going to take him at 60. They drafted him at 36. He's the fastest player in the draft. And there was something. It wasn't from one of the Dodgers people specifically, but it was from somebody who was kind of close, that I trust usually what they say in their articles and stuff that are inside of the organization, that there is real thought that Kendall George, because of the new rules, could be that Terrence scorer this year. They could use him on the postseason roster because he's the fastest player in the draft. And he would just be that pinch runner, because you don't need that guy that has much depth.
Austin Riley just made a really good play. Matt Olson just made a really good scoop to get Josh Jung out.
Is the whole Braves infield in right now?
RC is out.
Oh, dang.
Is Albies in?
Might
I don't
be.
know.
That's another one. They all made it.
Yeah.
The whole dang team is there.
Yeah, Albies is in, it looks like.
Yeah.
Justin Steele's in.
You see a short guy playing second.
And socks.
Yeah,
High Sox. Albies has a ridiculous number of homers too this year.
Like 25 or something. There he is.
Yeah. Here's Ozzy. So they took out the shortstop, which is starting for the Braves, and they put in the rest of the infield.
And
they took out the catcher too.
Smith's in, yeah. Will Smith's in.
Yep.
But
deserving All-Star Will Smith. Very deserving.
Very so. And if we get Greg in here in a little bit, we'll talk a little bit more about some of our favorite picks and whatever. But I guess it doesn't really pertain to the game, but we did have a no-hitter happen this week that we haven't even mentioned on yet.
Matt Manning / others.
Yeah, Matt Manning, Jason Foley. And Alex. Did Alex hit him?
It was Lange. Yeah.
Lange. Yep. Closed it out, and I believe it was against Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, on Saturday.
Wasn't Lange a former Cub?
Yeah.
Got traded for Nick Castellanos. Okay. All you had to do was wait. I was going to tell you.
So, Matt Manning.
Nate in the waiting room now, by the way.
Okay. Well, heck, let's just bring him in then. We'll talk about the no-hitter with them.
Yeah. He's just Nate for now. I don't know. I think Kev's still in his pod.
That's fine. Let's just bring Nate in, and then
let's do it.
If Kev gets around,
he'll be around. I know he will.
So, but Matt Manning, Jason Foley, and Alex Lang.
Do you need me to bring him in?
Yeah, if you would.
That was the issue. Yep, I got him.
That was the issue.
Here he is.
Nate, do we have you?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just leaving Trader, so I'm unfortunately in my car, but I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know if it was just a technical issue, but DirecTV in Indiana right now apparently is not getting the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Well then.
What do they have?
I don't know if there's a dispute or something going on,
Oh.
but it's
With main box?
it wouldn't play anything.
Huh. It's not a great time to have it happen.
Yeah, main box has had issues before. I know that a few years ago they had an issue with DirecTV in Alabama, and they did not have the World Series when I was at Auburn, and I had to watch it on stream. Well, I had been paying for TV, so that kind of sucked.
That's okay, Nate. They're currently standing up to cancer,
That's right.
Yes.
which is good. Very good thing,
Very
but it's
good.
also not baseball. Justin Steele
Right.
just threw a scoreless inning.
Well, that's good. I saw that it was 1-1. I briefly looked it up. If you can tell me if there's been really any other action, obviously. It doesn't feel like it's been.
Some good defensive plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luis Arraez drove in.
2 for
Oh
2.
gosh, he's 2 for 2. He drove in somebody. Can't remember who he drove in.
And
JD
Yandy Diaz
Martinez.
hit a
Oh,
home run.
JD Martinez. That's
Yeah.
it. And then Randy
Yandy
hit
hit
a
a homer.
Yandy.
Yandy Diaz.
Yeah.
One of the Rays guys whose name ends in Y. So yeah, and then pretty pitching strong so far. A bunch of good performances from some of those guys. And
Estevez looked great. He had 2
Estevez.
strikeouts and a ground out.
didn't get a chance to talk about him because we were going over the
Yep.
draft. But Carlos Estevez, who was
Really good.
I think rather easily the number one signee in the free agent market this past offseason, was my number one guy on my board, and went to the Angels and has been nothing short of spectacular. I think he's really glad to be out of Colorado because he is thriving in Los Angeles, and he signed a 2-year deal there. So we'll see if he sticks around through this year. But the way relievers are starting to go is you trade a reliever when they're at the peak of their value. Carlos Estevez is at the peak of his value right now.
I mean,
Yeah.
if the Angels go into sell-off, I mean, he's a guy that you should be looking into. I mean,
Which
easily.
I mean, they really should. If we're going to
They
be
should.
honest, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like the Angels have been the worst run franchise in the past 10, 15 years, only based on the fact that how the hell do you waste 2 generational talents and you're not doing a damn thing in the postseason?
Yeah.
The one thing that I would push back on with the worst is the fact that the Rockies exist is one, and
Yeah.
and the other thing, and the Tigers for that matter. And the other thing is that they've made a lot of moves that were highly praised in free agency, and they just, for whatever reason, have not worked out. I mean, and injuries have been a big part of it. I mean, you look at Rendon. He's had so many injuries since he got to the Angels. You look at Albert Pujols, even back in 2011 when he signed, he dealt with that Achilles injury. And he just never was, or plantar. He had plantar fasciitis or something. He had something weird with his foot, and he just wasn't the same guy. He was still fine. He was all right for a few years, and then he was bad for a few years. But some of these guys that they've brought in on really big contracts, just for whatever reason, haven't worked. And for that matter, they're not obviously not very well run, but I mean, at least they're trying. Other teams, like the Rockies, they don't do anything. I mean, the Tigers are just bad.
The Angels haven't tried much to get pitching. I think that's kind
Yeah.
of part of the problem too. They've tried to get the hitters. I mean, they've got, like you mentioned, they tried to get they got Rendon. Yeah. They've got Hamilton before. You got Pujols. I mean, the big pitching thing they did was C.J. Wilson, and then this year's been Tyler Anderson, who's been terrible.
Been bad.
But I mean, they signed Syndergaard to the 1-year deal for With the qualifying offer now, they've kind of made that by going ahead and flipping him for Mickey Moniak, who's turned out to be pretty dang good so far.
Yep.
And flipped Marsh for Ohapi, who looks like he could be a catcher of the future. He went down with that shoulder injury this year, but I mean, it's not been great overall. But they absolutely should be a team that we are talking about here in the next few weeks to be a seller, and Estevez would have a pretty high market, I would assume, of contenders going after him. But
Yeah.
Do you guys think? I mean, do you think Otani ends up getting flipped?
that was my bold take before the season started, that I thought Otani wasn't going to be there. I don't think Art Moreno's ego will let him do it.
He'll do it, yeah.
But I mean, I didn't throw it out of the possibility. I just don't think Art Moreno would allow it to happen.
And the thing about selling at all, like even Estevez and other guys, like if you are going to keep Otani, then
You don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't trade away guys and say, well, we're going to sell, but we're keeping Otani, because then why are you keeping Otani? I mean, like, you can just re-sign him in the offseason. Like, yeah, that's the thing. So, you just worry about, like, I mean, it's a tough situation. I mean, because I understand, in this case, I understand Art Moreno, because you don't want to be the owner that trades the best talent of our generation. Like, even if it's the smart thing to do, like, it's just, there's something about that that's just, it's just crazy. Like, it's hard.
I don't think he's committed as much anymore. I mean, there was literally the offseason this year, he announced he was going to sell. And then, like, all of a sudden later on, he was just like, no, I'm not going to sell, and I'm fully committed. And it's like, well, you're not fully committed if you were literally just thinking of selling, like, 3 weeks ago. You're just not doing it.
Yeah.
Worth noting that I came across a tweet during the All Star Game. I'm sure the broadcast has been mentioning the potential of trading Shohei Ohtani. The note was that Shohei Ohtani, the value of half a season of Shohei Ohtani is likely not going to get brought up. That's not going to get agreed on, and we only have a month. I guess 20 days now, really. 3 weeks. You gotta agree on the value of the most valuable player in baseball.
I mean,
for half a season in 3 weeks, and be able to make that deal and pull it off. I don't see it happening. Neither did the guy who I saw.
We saw the same thing. We all said the same thing about Soto last year. We all said that it's not going to happen at the deadline. Like nobody's going to trade for 2.5 years of value for Juan Soto, and then it was 3 days before the deadline or something.
They said, he's getting traded.
3 or 4 days, and they're like, it's not.
It's ramped up. Yeah.
It's going to ramp up. And it's going to do it. All it takes is one side to say, "Yep, here it is."
I was going to say the other thing about Shohei is that we don't. I doubt there's any somewhat sort of discussion going on, because the Angels, while they've really struggled lately and they've got all these injuries, we're expecting them to be really bad for the next couple weeks and then to go into sell mode potentially because of then being really, really out of it. But their record right now, right around 500, like theoretically, hypothetically more so, over the next 2 weeks they could go. They play some teams that are right in front of them. They could go. Their next 9 games they could go 7-2. Somehow, which I don't think is going to happen because of the injuries and just the team right now. But that's kind of the thing. Like they're probably not even considering trading, but guys, right now we're just expecting in 2 weeks they might be 7 games under 500. Is kind of the thing, and that's what becomes scary for them, because then you're talking about that 20 days we've got till the trade deadline to work that out, and then it becomes 5 days. At that point.
Right.
All right, Nate, I got a question for you. Since you're here, we haven't included you as much, but
yeah.
All right. If you're a GM, are you trading let's just say your top 5 prospects, all 5 of them, half a season of Shohei Ohtani?
Oh man.
You are a contending team. You could make the playoffs this season and be potentially a World Series favorite if you traded for Shohei Ohtani, but it cost you your top 5 prospects.
I hate to give a cop out answer, but it really depends on. I think it depends on a lot what side of the. I'm just going to call it the bracket you're going to be on.
Who would be a division winner? If you traded for Shohei Ohtani, you'd win the division. You'd be out of the wild card race. Or you're a team that's already there. Whatever. You have a good farm system, a decent farm system. It would be painful.
Oh,
you know
there,
what?
of course. It's Vlad Jr. with the error.
You know what? Fuck it. I'd do it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I guess depending on what team you are, you would potentially have a chance at working out a deal with Ohtani in the off season. If it's a reasonable team. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not talking like the Twins here or the Guardians, but I think there's some other.
That's actually a good point, though. If you
Yeah.
were the Twins right now, the Twins are a good team to think of here. That's a team that could use a bat. We've already talked about that. Twins have a good farm system, not a great farm system. Are you willing to give up some of that farm system as a Twin to be to go from being a team that should be the division favorite but is not playing like it to the team that is maybe the division favorite with Shohei Ohtani and give him an opportunity? I mean, they have played like a big dog in the free agent market recently with Correa. So I wonder if the Twins might be one of the fits here, where they've got some guys who are MLB ready, like Royce Lewis and like Edouard Julien and some of those guys.
I don't know if even the Twins have enough of a prospect depth that the Angels would be looking for.
I don't think that.
You might be right.
I don't think that if he gets traded, I don't think it's going to be for quite as much as you expect because of the half year. I mean, especially like the thing is, like, if the Dodgers traded for him, or if hypothetically, if the Mets were in contention and traded for him or something, like, then you might give up more because you feel like you've got a good shot to re-sign him. But he's not going to re-sign with the Twins.
No.
I mean, he's just not, like.
No.
But then you're talking, would the Twins trade, Brooks Lee, Royce Lewis, and Edouard Julien? That's their top three prospects.
Absolutely.
Would they trade those guys for Shohei Ohtani just for half a season? I would tend to think yes, right? Like, and that would be the type of package that would definitely help the Angels moving forward.
That's just such a.
If Minnesota knew they were getting Ohtani, no injuries, and that they were going to win, then I think yes. But there's no guarantee in that.
If you knew you were going to win, but I mean, a team like Minnesota, even if they have Ohtani, who's awesome, are they going to win? I mean, he makes them better. They'll probably win the division, but like
Austin Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, all it takes is somebody getting hot. We saw it with the Phillies last year.
Oh, I know.
If you're throwing out a rotation of Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray, and Shohei Ohtani out in the playoffs, and then if you have Ohtani, Buxton, Correa, like all it takes is that right there. I mean, like, if you get a couple of those guys hot, like, they could make a run at it.
Yeah, I mean,
Makes
sense. It's just one of those things, like, you almost have to be pretty sure that you're a legit World Series. Because, I mean, we see things like what happened to the Braves in 2021, what happened to the Phillies last year, making it to the World Series after having just decent seasons. Like, you hear about that every now and then, but like typically that doesn't happen. I mean, the most likely scenario is the Twins don't win a playoff game again. I mean, they end up the 3 seed.
When was the last time they won a playoff game?
Like 2002 or something.
I know it's isn't it the 2002 A's? It's time they won a playoff game?
Yeah, I mean, like, they end up playing I don't know who's they ended up playing the last wild card, but that's going to be either the Astros or the Orioles or the Yankees, most likely. Like, I mean, or the Rays. I mean, you never know, or the Blue Jays. Even with the Shohei Ohtani, they're undermanned in that matchup. Then they're undermanned against whoever they face in the ALCS or ALDS. Then they're undermanned in the ALCS. And then in the World Series, I mean, they'd get. I mean, I don't think. It's just it's not worth trading your 3 best prospects on the outside chance that you get. But if you're a team like I mean, it's hypothetically the Braves. Like, I mean, the Braves farm system's not very good, so I don't know if they can even do it anyways. But
I would say the Braves are definitely not going to trade for Shohei Ohtani.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think they are either. But like, I'm just throwing out teams that like. I mean, the Braves are pretty sure they've got a legit World Series contender. Like,
I mean, or Orioles.
Or the Orioles. Yeah, the Orioles maybe.
I'm confident to say nobody in the NL Central would reasonably trade this year.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
Baltimore's interesting.
And it has to be a team that I think would have a shot at potentially re-signing him if you're giving up that much value.
Exactly.
Like,
or you have to be a team that has that much value just kind of overflowing in your farm system.
Well, yeah, and that's why, like,
just the Orioles.
The Orioles, yeah, but at the same time, like, are the Orioles trading that much talent that it's going to take to really get Ohtani and know that they probably, like, don't have a chance to re-sign him? Like, they're not one to spend the big money. I mean, their biggest contract's Chris Davis, who, like, that didn't work out and he's gone. Like, they're not spending that much money to even try and, like, it doesn't make sense. And they're a good team. I mean, but are they a team that go in and actually win the whole thing this year with Ohtani? Like, I don't know. And if you know that you don't have a chance to re-sign him, like the teams like the Padres, they can make another one. The Giants could. Yeah. Like, LA could do it and not even blink an eye. Like, they have like one of the best farm systems.
They always do.
You can give up Cartaya, Bush, like Miller, and they like. I mean, Miller's sure he's in their rotation right now, but Ohtani basically replaces him.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and you have Will Smith, Dalton rushing already. Like, Bush doesn't literally have a spot for you right now.
Even if you trade rushing in the trade, I mean, who cares?
And it wouldn't take. I don't think it would take that much to get him. I mean, I think it would take 2. I think it takes 2.
My thought for the Orioles is Kobe Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, and DL Hall.
Yeah, I mean, like that would make.
And that kind of package is 3 top 100 guys, a lot of talent.
I mean, DL Hall's not really.
I feel like they push for Grayson.
I don't know.
Yeah, and even then, right? If you're the Orioles,
I don't think the Orioles would do that. Yeah.
It would be tough to give up on Grayson so quickly.
Unless you were sure that Shohei was going to re-sign, which he probably would. I mean, who knows?
The only chance is to go ahead and trade for him, right? That's the Orioles' only chance.
Yeah.
Is to show him your culture, show him, you give him a chance to bond with those guys, and maybe he enjoys it there, right? That's your only chance.
One thing with the Orioles too is that their payroll is so low that like they could add a $50 million to their payroll and not even be worried about it. Like, because I mean they're still at a low payroll, and it's not like the Orioles have never run. I mean, they're not going to run a super high payroll, but it's not like they've never run a payroll of $100 million or something. Like, I mean, they've got a lot of room to add payroll. So, I mean, I just feel like Shohei's going to end up going somewhere else, but who knows? I mean, we'll see.
The only way for you to ensure that you have an opportunity is to make the trade for him right here.
Yeah. We're rambling on Nate, so go ahead and jump in here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just off the cuff and not even like realistic, but I feel like Ohtani would be really fun on the Reds.
Yeah,
he would be.
He would be. Yeah.
Issue being, I truly feel like the Reds are not in a position to do that right now. You know what I mean? Like, they are just hitting the beginning of the climb here after several years of rebuild. It would be very questionable to go trade it all off for a rental guy that's probably not sticking around.
I think the Reds are in a spot where they'll probably go add a couple of like decent arms at the deadline to try to stabilize their rotation, get them some innings, and hope to ride a bad division and a good offense to making the playoffs and kind of gaining some momentum going forward. Like that's kind of what I think the Reds are going to do.
Yeah, so let's kind of go through this. Who are some like middle of the rotation arms to back end of the rotation arms on bad teams that could be flipped at the deadline? Like
Giolito's probably the first one you think of, right?
Giolito, yeah. I mean, there's Stroman out there potentially.
Wouldn't be there for the Reds.
It would, well,
Right.
maybe not, but just I mean,
maybe it's too much to think about, but with
Brent
Giolito's,
Brent Rooker, we'll get to bats in a little bit.
with Giolito's personal stuff going on, you don't know how that's going to affect him,
true.
unfortunately.
Yep. Lance Lynn would be another name.
Yeah, we mentioned.
We've already discussed him.
Talked about him
yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Jack Flaherty's another guy. But if you're talking about the Reds specifically, I don't think the Cardinals would trade him in division. But I mean,
Montgomery.
The same thing. Like,
yeah, but I feel they'd be a lot more willing to give up Jordan Montgomery to the Reds than they would be Jack Flaherty.
I think Jack Flaherty needs a change of scenery, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he really does.
AL just took the lead. Bichette, sack fly. What about Michael Lorenzen? Since there's some familiarity there, and Lorenzen's pitched well this year, you're talking about innings eater, lower in the rotation guy, obviously, but it's certainly an option for them. I think.
Michael Lorenzen pitched well.
Yeah, he's pretty decent.
He's pitched pretty good. Yeah, he's been good.
The thing is that they never gave Lorenzen a shot to start when he was there. That was
and I wonder if there's some bad blood there.
Yeah.
The original Shohei. He's got a 4 ERA. It's not too bad.
You're not going to get a ton of value, but could Paul Blackburn be a guy this year that the A's finally look to flip? I mean, he's coming off injury, but he's pitched enough now. Like, he could be a guy that potentially looks to get flipped somewhere. It's kind of hard because I'm not sure any of these bottom teams, like the Red Sox, have nobody that they would really try and flip here at the deadline to be that. But
I wonder if the Royals wouldn't move on from someone who's really struggled. The questionable part there is who's the target guy for a guy like Brady Singer. Who's the target team there? Because and maybe even then, Zach Greinke an option for a team looking to ensure that they build some innings and have that playoff stability going forward. Obviously, Zach Greinke's not the same pitcher he was. But he'll get you there, right? The Reds have struggled with injuries. Lodolo's been hurt. Gunnar Green's been hurt.
I was gonna say too,
you just get a guy in there who can come in and start.
They'll eventually come back too. I mean, Hunter Green's not that far off, I don't think, from coming back. So, oh God.
I'd assume they'd maybe flip Chapman. Maybe.
They already have. He's a Ranger.
Yeah, he's to the Rangers.
Yeah.
Barlow.
Yeah, it happened last week.
Jesus.
Barlow will get traded, I think. Maybe.
If the Mets do try and do some sort of a sell-off, he hasn't been good this year, but could Carlos Carrasco be an option? I mean, he's older, but he's on an expiring deal.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, that would be a one that you could probably look at, and I mean, I think that type of thing is what the Reds will try to add, and innings, maybe a guy who can eat maybe a little bit more innings eating, but maybe I'm thinking and this guy won't get traded because he's on a somewhat contender, but like a Wade Miley type guy that eats innings, isn't going to put up incredible numbers, but he's all right. I think the Orioles have some of those guys on their team that don't get appreciated too much, like a Kyle Gibson, not Lyles, but Kyle Gibson's one that obviously he's not getting traded, but that's they want that kind of guy. They want the Kyle Gibson type, where it's not going to cost them much. He's going to stabilize things a little bit. He probably won't do anything crazy good, but he's going to help. He'll help a rotation that's running out 8 ERA Graham Ashcraft and 8 ERA what's his name, Weaver.
Weaver,
I mean,
they do need some pitching help if they want to get into the playoffs, I think, and that's a tough spot to be in, right? Because the Reds' offense has been so good.
Yeah.
Comparatively, the Brewers' offense has been so bad.
Yeah.
That each of those teams really would love something from the other.
I have no earthly idea how the Brewers are as good as they are. I have no idea. I mean,
their pitching
actually been good
this
I
year.
can't understand it.
Burns hadn't been that great this year.
Yeah.
And, I thought that coming into the season, like, there was a chance the Brewers would win the division because Burns and Peralta and Woodruff, like, the big three in that rotation just being so hard to score against. But, I mean, Woodruff has barely pitched, and Burns has been okay, and Peralta's
been okay,
fine, but, like, not great. And, I mean, their lineup hasn't. I mean, you could also have argued that like a bunch of their guys in their lineup that are rookies all hit at the same time, kind of like the Reds have this year, where like Weimer and Terang and Mitchell and all these guys come up and hit right away and just somehow. But I mean, Yelich being good has helped them. But
Yeah.
I mean,
you know who hasn't been bad for the Brewers, I feel like, and I only feel this way because I've used him a couple times in fantasy, is Tehran. I feel like has had some solid outings.
Tehran's actually been really good for them.
he's had some good outings for sure. So that's good to see too.
Yeah.
It is. He was out of baseball for a while, and
Yeah.
he was not good for a good bit there. But 2 starts, obviously, or I guess 8 starts.
Yeah.
A 3.64 ERA, right? I mean, that's
Terrible.
perfectly acceptable for what
Yeah.
he needs to be at this point, and
Yeah.
that's the type of place where guys are just, some of these guys need to get to. I mean, it's good to see Tehran not walking guys. That was always his problem. He's just walking the guys.
Yeah.
Tehran was always weird because he didn't throw hard, and he had a few years where he walked like nobody, and he was awesome when he walked like nobody. But then he had a few years where he was walking everybody, and it was weird. Like,
So, Nate, we've had you on here. We're obviously talking about our stuff, but why don't you tell us some more about your stuff from Bite Size Sports and even maybe some of the Traders Brewing?
Yeah, absolutely. So just over at Bite Size, we cover a variety of different sports and some late night things. Some more I guess I'll just say out there sort of things. Like for example. I haven't talked about it yet, but addressing MMA basketball, I guess, is a thing. For whatever reason. But yeah, no, just covering a lot of stuff. Like for example, I mean, this wasn't really a thing to do for Bite Size, but we just had some reels and stuff out from Mid Ohio this weekend. So it's just a lot of fun to do various things and get some content that way. And then just at Traders, I'm just if you ever find yourself in Indianapolis, feel free to come hit me up for a brewski because I'm just slinging beers there.
Awesome. Worth noting that Lourdes Gurriel just tied the game up with a home run.
Yep, right down the
Jordan
line.
Romano.
Yeah.
But Nate, you're in a fantasy league with me and Damien. Obviously, you mentioned that, and
Sponsoring
what else
this year?
Yeah, and you're sponsoring Damien's car in our iRacing league too, and I'm sponsored by Bite Size Sports. So, when it comes to Bite Size Sports and just kind of all the different things that you guys take care of and do, what is your expected favorite podcast type, sports type to do, with Kevin over there at Bite Size Sports? Which one do you enjoy the most?
It really just depends. Like for example, yesterday we kind of did a little tiny bit of a recap from the weekend, and then it evolved into discussing some really ridiculous, mind you, NBA mock trades involving Siakam. I'd have to go back and look at it again, but there was one example where the Heat ended up getting it was like a three-way trade, and the Heat ended up getting Lillard and somebody else really good, and it's like, who else wants to make that trade? Because the other two teams in that trade, weren't super great there. But it's just a matter of really just kind of going with off the cuff stuff, and I really enjoyed doing that sort of thing where it's not necessarily scripted, I guess.
Nice. Yeah.
It's good
Similar
stuff.
to ours.
Fun.
They're reviewing that home run, by the way.
Yep.
For Lourdes Gurriel.
It
Really
does look-
close.
it looks like it went behind, but
Yeah, it did, but it was close.
yeah.
So
So, well, Nate, do you pay attention to the MLB draft at all, outside of potential Cubs?
You know, not really. I mean, even like the NFL draft, like I don't really.
They're calling it
foul
a
ball.
Oh no.
Bummer.
Yeah, it was foul.
Um,
You can see it in front of the pole.
Yeah, I don't really pay attention that much. Even the NFL draft, unless like I'm really watching it, I'm not really paying attention. But I will say that I'm kind of interested to see how Max Clark ends up progressing, just because he's from not too far from where I live, so
Oh,
it's just kind of interesting to have that little connection there.
So I
Yeah,
know
he's,
Len's drafting before you in fantasy, so I could use him against you as leverage.
I got your other guy here. Kev. Kev also joining us from Bite Size Sports. You got us, Kev. You in here?
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me? Is this
Yep.
thing
Yeah.
on?
I can
we
hear
got
you.
you.
You can,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can hear you.
you can fire
Awesome.
up the old cam if you're on your
Yeah,
setup.
let's,
I think we can put you in there.
Yep, it'll pop right in there as soon as he. It's going.
See if he can get in here.
Trying.
there we go.
There he
Here he
is.
is.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm learning the ropes on Discord here.
Nah,
Oh yeah.
you're good. So how's it going, Kevin?
Oh, it's great. I just got. Sorry, I got to get caught up on this game because I just got out of a podcast. We were talking NFL and NBA stuff over at All About Sports. My friend Megan Hall has a podcast, so getting my bearings here. How's it been? What have I missed?
Let's see.
A home run from Yandy Diaz and a hit and run, 2 hits for Arias that scored run. So it was 1-1, and then you had Salvador Perez got knocked in on a sac fly last inning, and it's
Yeah.
2-1. So we just had Lourdes Gurriel hit a moonshot that went foul by inches. They called it a home run at first. They got reviewed. But some good defensive plays, some good pitching, and we've just been kind of talking about everything in baseball. So
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Kev. Who does Yandy Diaz play for? I want a little trivia for you. Let's see if I can get you.
He's not still with the Rays, is he?
Oh yeah.
Yes, he's with the
Yeah.
Rays. Good
Yeah,
shit, dude.
okay. Nice. I was gonna say,
He's a weird one.
Let's say you might be able to get me on a couple of these, but I was like, oh shoot. I was like, oh, that felt like a trick question.
So
Yeah.
um,
So we've had Nate in here, with us for a while, kind of talking about bite-sized sports, and we asked him, what was some of his favorite things to talk about on there and favorite style of the podcast, and just wondering what your answer would be to that.
Okay, yeah. So, my favorite stuff. Basketball was my first love, so I'm a big hoop head. Outside of Bite Size, I'm an editor for the Last Word on Sports, so on our basketball website. So, college basketball, NBA. I do a lot of draft coverage, so I kind of what I really get into is NBA draft profiles. I like taking a look at the players. Looking at that transition, trying to find, good situations that will fit for them. Not necessarily, I'm not really like a big board kind of guy because I don't think it's that cut and dry, right? It's so much of it can be situational, depending on either sport, right place, right time. So I love our live shows. We do a lot more than that. This whole bite-sized sports thing, if you guys don't mind me just talking about it for a brief second,
Go ahead.
it started just Nate was my first co-host. We've had a few different iterations of this. At one point we were Smoke Break Sports, but that's not very advertiser friendly. And it started out as basically just recording into one of those little plastic microphones a little $15 USB bad boy. And over the time, I got a job over at Stadium Rant. Wonderful guys there. They added me to their media team, and then there was just some management changes and stuff. Nothing bad, no bad blood anywhere, but it just happened to turn out that I got a whole team of guys that were like, we really love what you're doing over at Bite Size Sports. We want to bring this stuff to you. And so I'm just honored and blessed because I was kind of just a jack of all trades talking about I really like to talk about obscure sports. I'm pumped that Slam Ball's coming back. It might only be here for a month, but I'm really hyped for it. So we would do that. So now I just love that we have that range. You know, we have 3 guys that only talk NFL on Tuesdays. We got 2 different fantasy sports shows, so I can learn stuff about fantasy. So then I get now I am blessed because I have my own show, but then I can kind of hop in and be guests and learn some things with those guys. So honestly, I do miss the scripted stuff. If there was one thing I could do more of, I really do like sitting down, scripting out a little short video, doing stuff like that. But I don't know. It's all really fun, and thank you guys for letting me just drone on about it for 5 minutes. I appreciate you. You're very generous.
I gotta say though, if you really want to get him talking, his favorite thing to discuss is Miles Turner trade rumors. So just get him in.
Wait, all right. So Kev likes trade rumors. All right, Kev, give us a Shohei Ohtani trade rumor.
Oh,
Tied into
God.
baseball.
Oh God. He's going to the Cubs, right? What's it going to take?
Absolutely.
What's the package going to take to get him to Wrigley? That's the only trade rumor I'm interested in. Now that's probably about. I mean, you guys tell me realistically. Like, is there a trade for Ohtani that would work? Are there anybody in the mix?
That's what we've been trying to talk about for 3 hours. Here, really trying to break that down. And I think our conclusion has come back to we don't know.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
We were like, well, maybe, but you know, it's one of those where if you're the Cubs, right, are you giving up Pete Crow Armstrong for half a year of Ohtani? Like, you're not. So, can you possibly, rationalize giving up even top 5 prospects for Ohtani? Like, the Cubs have a good system. Could you do it? Yes, but for a team that's 7 games out and you're probably leaning selling instead of buying, I would rather the Cubs be buying. I think the Cubs would rather the Cubs be buying, but I played that way. And would they be willing to make that kind of deal? I don't think so, right? And we're looking at the Twins, the Orioles, some of these teams that are more fringy that I think would have almost no shot at Ohtani in free agency just on a straight bidding war. But those are the types of teams that we think are, maybe a little more likely to make a move here. At least I do, because the Orioles would never have a chance for Shohei Ohtani otherwise, and that's a team that's pretty solidly in the playoff mix in the AL.
They're only 2 games out of first place.
They need some help at the rotation. They need some help at DH. I think that's a team that could really benefit from Ohtani.
Yeah.
That would be so much fun. I mean, like if we're fantasy booking this thing, to borrow a wrestling term, like that would be. I'd like that. I'd watch that. That would get me to watch a few more Orioles games for sure.
Get him with Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson and some of those guys. Austin Hayes, he's in this All Star game. I think he grounded out, but
I do have it pulled up, by the way. I've got my phone rocking here, so I might be behind, but I don't know.
Yeah, they just streamed up in Discord. Yeah, you can just
jump in.
Yeah. Just to mention, they did pull.
Tell anyone how much I can't navigate Discord.
They did pull Jordan Romano after they called that one back and brought in Michael Lorenzen, who we were just talking about as a potential trade candidate. So,
by the way, Michael Lorenzen, I knew he was always in good shape, but that dude's like a bodybuilder on the mound.
Jacked.
He's like,
jacked.
Good lord.
He is yoked.
He's pitching now to Juan Soto, who this would be the Pat Hughes turning point of the game right here.
This could boost your trade value right here.
You get Juan Soto out here, you're looking good.
Yeah. But
he's about to rip out of that shirt. You guys weren't lying.
It's like he's crazy.
Want to note Juan Soto. I saw a lot of consternation regarding Juan Soto's start, where he was kind of hitting under 200. for the first month or so. He is currently hitting 265
Yeah.
with a 148 WRC plus. He's got more walks than strikeouts. He is 24 years old. He is younger than a bunch of prospects that are coming up as he pops it up right here. So of course I try to hype him up for Juan Soto did a thing, and he popped up to third base. So got bamboozled.
All right, so now how soon are the Dodgers trading for Lorenzen after this? Because they have not been able to get Soto out before.
I think Lorenzen's going to be a sneaky, valuable trade
No,
piece for the Tigers.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I could see one of those fringe teams, going
Yeah.
and making that
mean,
move. But
So let me ask this then: do you think they would maybe trade Alex Lang?
We talked about that a while ago, actually.
We did.
I mean, last year you saw the big one that's kind of similar was the Scott Efros from the Cubs for Wisniewski, I think that was that trade.
Yeah.
I think that you could see that. It'll be interesting. I don't know how much what the Tigers think about their future, like what the time frame is on it, because a lot of that has to do with. Do you think? Because I think Alex Lynch has a little bit more staying power maybe than Efros.
yeah,
He's got a little bit more pedigree as a prospect and everything.
It's got less control.
Little less control, but he throws harder, and I mean, he's a guy that maybe you. I mean, if the Tigers feel like they can turn it around and maybe in like 2 or 3 years be good again, then they might keep him because he's under control. But I mean, I'd probably move on from a guy like that. It seems like teams don't do that often enough.
Yeah, I think we're shifting that way in general in baseball. I think teams are going to start capitalizing on reliever value, right?
Oh, yeah.
The way you find a Yennier Cano is not by trading for a Yennier Cano at his peak value, but it's by developing a guy, and then you move on from him when that value goes up, right? And I think we are going to see some teams take advantage of that. I think the best available arm in Detroit's bullpen is Jason Foley. I think he's the kind of guy who could very easily be available. He gets a lot of soft contact on the ground. He doesn't walk anybody. He's been reliable his 2 years that he's been up. And he was part of that no-hitter, just like Lange was. So
Yeah.
I think Foley might actually be the guy that moves. You keep the guy who's been a little more, he's a guy you traded Nick Castellanos for in Lange. He's got that nasty stuff. Foley's more of a, don't give up home runs type of guy. And while he's been the more valuable reliever for the Tigers, I think that's what gets you a little more back.
Yeah.
Versus Lange, who maybe is a little more of a, homer pick for the Tigers at this point.
So they do have the same amount of control left. They're both a free agent in 2028, by the way. But
One more that guy on the Tigers we haven't talked about yet, Eduardo Rodriguez. I know that there's still some people who think he's getting moved. I kind of doubt he ends up getting moved because of the opt-out. Like, the downside of him coming back and not pitching well in the second half or getting injured again or something and having to pay that gigantic contract if he doesn't opt out is really rough. So I kind of think he ends up being a guy that doesn't get traded and then just opts out at the end of the year or opts in depending on how he does. But although that was kind of that's another one that you might see on the move.
yeah, I think he's an interesting one because I think that some team that is looking for a starter who can pitch at the level of Eduardo Rodriguez. I mean, you're talking about he is a high 3.4 ERA guy. Like, he is a 4 to 5 starter. Could even be 3 if you're in a kind of a worse rotation there. But the value really, like, the AAV is only $15.4 million. I mean, we were seeing what Clevenger and Boyd went for, like, 10 and 11 million this year.
Yeah.
I don't think the Eduardo Rodriguez contract is really as bad as people play it out to be because of the level of production he can give you. Now, I think the real thing with Eduardo Rodriguez that you worry about is, first, the injury concerns, because he has dealt with that before, but 2, the off the field. I mean, this is a guy who went AWOL for 3/4 of the season last year on the Tigers after signing that big contract. Now, I think a team could make a deal for him and say like, hey, we're fine with you opting in because first off, that avoids us having to deal with the pitching market this offseason, which is going to be, we mentioned it earlier, sort of insane. And the value really, it's not that bad compared to what you would be looking for this production out on the market. I mean, for a guy who's going to give you a mid-3 ERA, are you going to be able to get him on a $15.4 million AAV for 3 years? I mean, what did Taijuan Walker just get this last year?
70 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did
Same amount.
Jameson Taillon? What did he get?
Too damn much.
Well,
is what he got.
hey, at the time we all thought it was a solid
that's
deal.
an example. That's an example though of
Just-
that. Why that wouldn't work out. Like,
I
He
mean,
also
Taijuan
just
Walker's
had
actually been good.
his best start of the
Just,
season.
Taijuan Walker just has had
Well, I
like
mean,
over the past month or so.
talking about Tyon.
Yeah,
like,
I mean it's kind of both
Yeah.
both sides of it there, but I mean Taillon got more than what
Go.
Rodriguez would get.
There's a
So-
current standing ovation going for Julio
Julio
Rodriguez at
Rodriguez.
the plate,
Yeah.
which
Hell yeah.
the worst hitter in the All Star game, not named Whit Merrifield.
Oh,
we'll talk.
That's my
I want
outfielder.
to talk about Whit Merrifield, but it's worth noting that Julio Rodriguez has created a really good situation for himself where he's got a long-term extension. He's got a lot of runway. This year has not been his best year, but you see the reception for him anyway. He's a very likable player. He's still really, really young.
Yeah.
This is a guy I trust to get right and to be the next kind of great Mariners outfielder. I think he'll turn it around. I don't really have any doubts about Julio Rodriguez.
Speaking of maybe turning a corner here, I just want to jump back to the Tigers real quick and go full bias here and see. Well, Torkelson's been pretty good the last couple of weeks.
oh, don't get
Good
Matt
one.
started. Matt's been on the
Just
Torkelson
just
train.
staying here.
Yep. I actually have been a little bit on the Torkelson bandwagon
He's back.
to some level, as a lot of his batted ball metrics have been a lot better this year than they were last year, and show signs that he might be legitimately improved some, even though the numbers are improved from last year, but they aren't like at the level that you would really want to see from him. But I mean, the only thing about Torkelson is that being a first base only guy, he has to hit at an elite level, because it's not like he's an elite defensive first baseman anyways. Like, he's good enough to be there, but he's got to hit at an elite level to be a really valuable player, and that's just part of the that's part of the issue with him. But I mean, he has shown some signs that he's he hadn't been around a super long time, and not everybody comes into the big leagues and immediately performs like Corbin Carroll has this year, or Gunnar Henderson to a certain level. Adley did last year. Like, some guys it takes a couple years. So I definitely think that you might I wouldn't trade him or anything. I'd hold on to him and see what he can do. I think he could end up still being a decent piece for them.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Camilo Doval, who
Yeah.
just struck out Julio with a
Insane.
101 mile an hour fastball. Kev, what you think about this guy, Camilo Doval?
That was nasty. What was that? What did he just throw past Ramirez there too? That
was a-
looked pretty nice as well.
So
That's-
Doval's a fastball slider guy. Fastball's 100 to 102. Slider's sitting 90, 91, and that sucker it's not a sweeper. It's definitely a slider, but it's nasty, man.
There's
He
a-
is.
That cutter
He's
too.
Yeah,
real
he
good.
does have like a mid to upper 90s cutter.
Oh man. There's the slider outside.
One thing that I wanted to talk about, especially with having Nate and Kev on, to get another opinion, because we've talked about it enough ourselves, but it's about the rule changes this year. We've seen many different rule changes. We even had Manfred and Tony Clark talk today about potentially adding a few more seconds for the playoffs, maybe making it like 20 seconds with bases empty and 25 with runners on base. But overall, what do your guys' feel on the rule changes so far? The pitch clock, bigger bases, all around the limit of the shift. Has it made your viewing experience of baseball better? Has it made you more of a fan? Like, what has that done for you so far this year?
So
Nate,
for me,
you start.
yeah. So for me, like, I really don't have an opinion on the larger bases. when it was first announced, I wasn't like upset about it anyway, just because it's just, to me, it's like, eh. I'm a very big pro pitch clock person, and it was on, as petty as it is, as many people on Twitter that were really upset, especially this one individual who I will not name, crying and bitching about it. I'm just, like, obviously baseball's not a timed game per se, and I don't mind 3-hour games, but it's also nice to kind of have a consistent sort of pace going in the game. And like, I'd be okay with like 20 seconds on the pitch clock. I don't think 15 is that bad. So overall, like, some of these rules haven't been too bad. I will never be a big fan or a fan at all of the Ghost Runner. I also would prefer, I mean, I'm not saying it's better, but I also would prefer no DH personally. Just, I'm not saying it's any better. I just, personal preference. But most of the rules I don't necessarily mind, although Manfred can still go bite a curb or whatever.
So let me push back on a little bit. A question. Not really push back, but another question. So with the no DH, that means you would be fine having basically us not be able to have a Shohei Ohtani doing what he's doing right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So are you saying no DH altogether, or are you just wanting to go back to the
Split.
Split? Yeah.
Oh man.
For me personally, I
lined
love it. It makes me feel a lot less guilty about all those years I cheated in the show and gave the Cubs a DH because I just wasn't trying to deal with all that. So it makes me feel better about myself.
I mean, I don't know. In the long run, the DH, no DH is not really a big thing. It's just kind of, being an NL guy is kind of tradition.
Right.
And
We have
I
some
also,
great hitting pitchers too,
Yeah, as infrequent as it was, seeing some pitcher dongs was really nice too.
That's what I'm saying. Carlos Zambrano,
That's-
get everybody up.
David, you were asking the way to make the things better. We should have a pitcher home run derby now that we don't actually have.
See, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
See, the All Star Game should be for things that you don't normally see. That's the way.
Like,
I just want to.
I want a team to
Michael
sign.
Lorenzen.
I want a team to like sign Madison Bumgarner just to use him in the pitcher home run derby. Like-
Carlos Zambrano's only 42. I think he could participate.
Like,
Is he
imagine-
really?
Oh, bring him back for the celebrity. I want more. Get all the celebrities out of the celebrity softball game and give me more Brett Boones. Give me more Zambranos. I just want nothing but softball dingers for 2 hours.
Listen, there was some of the rumors
Give me
about
some
the Cubs maybe hosting the All Star Game in 2025. You could always bring back some veteran. I mean, you just had Mike
There'll be
Cameron
time.
come and be the Seattle guy. Like, you could see Carlos Zambrano get in there and just nail somebody with a pitch, and then just
Give me,
There you
start
go.
give me
going to
some
town.
Travis Wood. Give me some
Travis
Travis
Wood,
Wood.
yeah. all right.
Gary Wood.
I want to just note that Carlos Zambrano, as a hitter in his career, was 43% below league average as a hitter. His best season.
not
That's
bad
that. His
for a pitcher.
best season. His best season.
is it below
was-
league average
Oh.
for pitchers?
Was 30.
No, for
he was
the whole league.
43%. 43%. He was widely considered one of the better hitting pitchers of all time. 43% below league average. Best season,
Hey,
was 30% above league average. He was a 130 WRC plus guy. Only struck out 30% of the time.
Who was that?
Carlos Zambrano.
Oh, yeah.
I'm noting that the issue with hitting pitchers for me was never the dinger, the occasional dinger, right? It was never the the fun aspect. It was that pitchers went from being capable hitters to being completely useless. The best hitting pitcher was a very, very below average hitter. And like that to me isn't fun. Right? That's not good for baseball. When
When they can't even lay down a bunt anymore.
Let me.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
It was bad. And
Let
even
me-
then, like, I don't want to watch a bunt.
Yeah.
Who cares about
Let
a
me-
bunt?
Right? Yeah.
Let me tell you,
To be
he might
fair-
not have been good, but watching Rich Hill at like 37 try and hit was some of the best
Yeah.
content you'll ever see.
Bartolo.
Okay.
Corone, yeah.
Yeah, I
there's
mean, you got
guys-
one of the most
Yeah.
iconic moments from that.
I mean, and
John
then you
Weston
know
with his first career home run. That's a pretty good one.
you also had your
He didn't have a hit for so long.
you also had your occasional like pitcher ends up having a pinch hit in extra innings and gets the game-winning hit stuff too, like
Yeah.
because of having so many. And that one thing I do miss with
John
the pitcher
Baker,
hitting.
just saying.
One thing I do miss with the pitcher hitting is the lack of like I've been watching. I'm a big Braves fan, if y'all don't know, and the
It won't take him long to figure it out.
I
Matt,
thought
don't worry.
David was.
I haven't even
I'm
mentioned
a
the
big
Braves.
fan.
Right?
I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about.
David's the one with the Braves shirt on. Actually, I do too, but
I thought you were a Charlotte Knights fan.
no, but yeah, the one thing I do miss is the lack of use of the bench. Because I've been watching the Braves every game this year, and they've had a guy on their roster for the last like 2 months who has not played in one game. Charlie Culberson has been on the roster for like the last month and a half, and he has not played in one game. He has not made an appearance. He's been on the roster for like 45 days. So, I mean, it does kind of stink that you're just like you just never see any of these bench players anymore. You don't have to build that depth, and these guys don't get into games. It kind of sucks. But I mean, at the same time, like, I mean, I thought that it was gonna suck to not have pitchers hitting, and I don't really miss it that much. I'm kind of used to it now. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
It'd make a huge difference to me, and just whether or not I was gonna watch baseball. But yeah, I think the product is fine without it. So
Let me get
You
you.
know,
all-
and
Go ahead, Nate.
to build on that point there, it's frustrating because people are not using the benches. Like for example,
Yeah.
I've got Tyler Freeman, and he has not played a ton, and it's not like the Guardians have like these all-star players at the positions he could play. So why not just give him some fucking playing time? Y'all are mediocre as fuck as it is anyway. But that's one of the things that you brought up that makes a lot of sense to me. So, yeah.
I got you.
So, Kev,
But-
you got some rules that you?
Yeah, on my end with the rules, pitch clock was never a huge deal to me. I thought it was a good idea to try. Nate already touched on the overreactions. I saw a lot of people freaked out this spring with like, oh, how can this happen? Wasn't there like a bases loaded or some situation in a spring ball
Yeah.
game? Somebody
yeah, it was the first game of the year, first spring game of the year. Like it was called Strike 3.
And we're like, oh my God, the worst case
Yeah.
scenario just happened right away. So abort. Let's all undo this. But no, I wanted to give it a chance. Take a longer approach, let them work out the kinks, get it figured out. I personally, the pace of baseball was never a turn off for me. So, but I mean, it does make it easier to kind of, I guess, have a better idea of what you're getting into. I think the one that I have the most issues with, that I've just kind of always had mixed feelings about this strategy in baseball, is the stuff with the shifts. Because on one hand, it's like, all right, are you cheating by shifting? On the other hand, I'm like, why can't a guy who makes $1 million just wait on a fastball and poke it into left field? Like, if he's that good of a hitter, why can't he just, they're giving him half the damn field. Like, why, if they're going to go on the shift, beat the shift. So, I don't know. Part of me wanted to see them not make any changes and just, shifts are annoying, but figure out a way to beat it. But so that one was one I was kind of iffy about. But overall, I'm okay with the rule change. I think maybe with baseball more than other sports, it's a tougher pill to swallow because baseball's been baseball for so long, and maybe we haven't seen. I'm a basketball fan. People older than me can remember a day when there
Yeah.
wasn't a 3-point shot. Our game has changed a lot. It doesn't really happen as much with baseball. So maybe it was just kind of a lot to change all at once. But I'm content with it so far. I mean, how do you guys feel? I don't want to make you rehash old content, but
Yeah. So I love all the changes, and my philosophy on the shift is not one of why can't hitters hit. It's that why are third baseman playing right field?
fair. Yeah,
You're
right.
playing-
You can
if
make
you're
the
if you're
argument.
playing,
Yeah.
playing third base, you need to be at third base. You need to not be at right field. Now, and that's why I like the rule that they do have here, which is shortstop can move, but he can't move past second base, because if you move past second base, you'd be playing second base. So the shortstop can start close to the second base, then you got the third baseman, he can move over. You've got a minor shift, but it's not a full shift where you got like the third baseman in right field. That guy's not playing his position. And I like that. I like the positions being set where I can go to a baseball game, I can see the whole field, and I can say, that's the third baseman, that's the shortstop, that's the second baseman, that's the first baseman. Those are the three outfielders. Everybody's in where they're supposed to be the whole game. I like that.
Yeah.
I'll always be standing for exactly that.
Yeah, and like, you know, with the shift thing, the other rules I've been cool with, except for the ghost runner. That's not new this year, but they kind of made it permanent, and I hate that. But the other rule, the shift rule, like I'm kind of in the same court as David. I don't mind it with the. I will always be on the side of play defense wherever you want to play defense, but like the way that they have the rule right now, I don't totally hate it. I mean, it hadn't been. There's the home run.
Elias Diaz.
Can't shoot
Elias Diaz.
3-2.
We haven't talked about the availability of Elias Diaz as a that might have gotten him traded right there.
It's the Rockies. They're not trading anybody.
The Rockies aren't trading anybody. They'll extend him They'll extend him.
He's 32, and they're like, let's sign him to a 10-year deal.
Oh, what a bomb! 93-mile-an-hour exit velocity.
Yeah.
He did enough. It was off of Felix Bautista too, who's been really, really good for the Orioles.
He's good. But go back.
Before we get going further, I'm gonna jump off here. I got a long day tomorrow, so with y'all.
All right, Nate.
Appreciate you coming on, Nate. It was fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you soon, Nate.
But going back to the shift thing, you were talking about basketball, and I think that there are some ways that, having that rule the way it is, it's kind of like how in basketball they implemented the 3 seconds in the lane defensively.
Yep.
Where, trying to keep centers from just standing there and being impossible to. I mean, there are things that have been done in the past in other sports to improve scoring and to, to kind of like make it balance the game out. So, I mean, I don't hate it. I just, it's not my favorite rule, but I don't hate it. So
yeah. See, I was one of those that had the big issue with the pitch clock that to come in. I was of the mind that baseball doesn't have a clock. It doesn't need a clock. Spending 3 hours watching a game, it's about the same time you watch an NFL game. I mean, NBA games are, 2:45, somewhere right around there. Hockey's about 3 hours. Like, you just spend about 3 hours watching a sports game. That's kind of what it was. So I didn't have an issue with it. As it started happening, and even now, like, I'm fine with it in the concept, but I wish it did have more time. Like, the 15 seconds to me, when I went over looking at the stats of it, and not to get too winded into it, but 15 seconds was like, out of the 300 pitchers or whatever there were last year, was like the top 50 people were 15 seconds. The majority were in the 18 to 20 second mark, were like 51 to like 250 or something like that. Like, that's where the majority of the people were. And then there was like the bottom 50 were like 25 seconds or whatever, like 30 seconds. So I always am just still of the thing, like, it needs to just be a little bit, the time limit now should just be extended a little bit, but
well, maybe they'll like what they see in the playoffs if they extend it and decide to go with that. Because isn't that what you guys were saying? They were talking about extending it for the playoffs, which I do think is a good move. I think
it's absolutely hilarious that Rob Manfred said today that, like, we want to keep the same rules that we have in the regular season in the postseason, and we don't want to extend the clock, yet they don't use the Ghost Runner in the postseason.
I was just
like him to say, like, we want to keep the same rules from the regular season to the postseason,
like,
in the same sentence as saying, like, but I know we have the Ghost Runner and we don't use that in the playoffs, but I want to keep it the same.
Yeah.
Like-
Never mind this over here.
Yeah.
Other than that, no. And the Ghost Runner one. That is the one. I guess I said that I didn't have a problem with all the rules. I hate the Ghost Runner rule. I don't care if it's a 17 inning game, 18 inning
Like-
game. I don't think they happen that frequently. Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
adjustment. It might impact you for a week. That sucks. But the Ghost Runner thing is horrible for me.
I think in
Haven't-
concept it would be fine if you made it like in the 12th or the 13th inning.
Yeah,
Like, if the
I think
game's
that'd be fine.
over-
You would never see it.
Yeah, if you're above and beyond like a reasonable game, like okay, we have overtime in all kinds of other sports. Like it's okay, but like if it goes above and beyond, like if we get to like 4 overtimes in basketball, like maybe we should just have like a 3-point shootout or like a free throw contest
Yeah.
or something, you know, like but that very rarely happens. I mean, you're talking about like 3 or 4 games a year that might get to that point.
Yeah, like you're talking about in we've had games. I would much rather see the Ghost Runner than see Chris Davis pitch the 16th inning. Like,
Yeah.
That's
I mean-
a valid point.
because like I mean, it's just at a certain point a team's gonna completely run out of pitchers too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I
You
think
need a way.
I
You
would-
need a
I
way
would
to
be
end
totally-
games.
Yeah. I would be
You need-
against it if it was like the 12th or 13th inning
Yeah.
that they did Manfred Ball. Like doing it in the 10th inning is just. I
Also,
mean,
at that
I-
point, just give me like a designated long relief, like extra innings guy who like doesn't count against your
Yeah.
roster. Like,
Yeah.
just give me somebody
Oh,
like, hey, he could pitch like 5 innings, but he's not on our active roster. But like, it's only in case of emergencies.
I don't mind that compromise of, okay, we'll give you a couple of bonus innings of regular old baseball, and then at the 12th or whatever, all right, we'll
Yeah.
start doing the Ghost Runner.
Well,
Because
'cause-
that does, I do understand that. You guys make some good arguments about. Yeah, I hate seeing position players pitch unless it's like a 17-6 game, and at which point it's all comedy at that point anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and like this at this point, most of the time, when you see that runner, that Ghost Runner, it's usually scoring, and then it just goes to a 1-1 game, and you know, it basically gets to a regular game of baseball anyways, because most of the time those Ghost Runners are scoring, and then it's like, okay, now you have a game with 2 outs again, and it's like, well, what's the point? We're just gonna keep doing this.
It's either they score or they don't score, and you
And
keep
both. It happens
battling back
both
and
ways,
forth with
yeah.
utility. I don't enjoy the way that those play out. It just doesn't feel fun. Bautista just walked Will Smith and is getting pulled after 30 pitches. If I were an Orioles fan, I wouldn't be real happy about my best reliever going for 30 pitches.
Yeah, after also pitching Yunier Cano tonight as well.
Yeah,
they both pitched.
Not my favorite thing here. I mean, and Garrett Cole threw 6 pitches. like,
But
so, you know, I much prefer that to throwing 30. They
Right.
pulled Romano after like 5.
yeah,
I
they're
don't
just
know.
trying to give everyone an inning, and yeah,
yeah.
so
So, you know, Kev, you said you're more of a basketball guy. I know we're obviously more of a baseball show, but you know, the NBA draft did just happen. So what were some of your, you know, favorite fits from the draft? And tell me why Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be the best player of all time.
oh my god,
Hey, I'm right there with you. Shameless self-promotion here. You know, I talked about I like to cover the NBA draft and do some draft profiles. I'm also a Hoosier at heart and cover the Big Ten. I wrote a little piece called "Jalen Hood-Schifino is the next DeMar DeRozan." I believe he's going to be very, very good. I think he was a great fit. I promise you I will mention more than just Hoosiers, but I do think that Tracy Jackson Davis falling to Golden State of all places is a steal. There are a couple of guys like Drew Timme. There are some really talented college players, some post guys in particular that did not get drafted because
Castleton as well. He didn't get drafted, did he?
Yeah, because the game is sort of transitioning to this stretch 4. They want, you know, just tall, small forwards playing the 4, and you have some of these guys that are good post players. They're more low to the ground. You know, they don't stuff it home. You know, they play the game below the rim, so to speak. So I think the Warriors knocked it out of the park. I cannot pronounce this guy's name, but Brandon Pojitsky, whatever. They got the best shooter in college to replace Jordan Poole. So I think the Warriors really knocked it out of the park. I think my Pacers may have Kawhi Leonard me again by drafting Bilal Kulabi and then trading him immediately. So although I'm happy about Jarris Walker, I think Bilal's going to be a good talent. And so it's just like, no, why? Don't trade guys like this, or don't draft guys like this and then immediately trade them. Another person I'm really high on, not maybe as big of a name, Leonard Miller. He's a 6'11" playmaker. So, and he's been working on his 3-point shot, lefty 3-point shot. I think he's going to be somebody that could, in a couple of years, give him some time to develop. But yeah, NBA is just getting so much fun to watch because you have these guys that are 7 feet tall that can dribble in ways that 20 years ago shooting guards and small forwards maybe could do that, but it was mainly your point guards. So I don't know, there's so much talent in that draft. So at least I got us through the commercial break.
Right.
Sorry, you could. I'm like a wind-up toy. If you just mention basketball, I don't even need a co-host.
That's why we're doing baseball. It's how we all are with the...
I do have one draft question left for you, NBA draft. So, what was your opinion on number 2? Should killer Brandon Miller have gone number 2, or should Scoot Henderson have gone number 2?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I actually just got to spend some time. I love that nickname, by the way. I think
Best shooter.
Brandon the Killer Miller.
Okay, so I will just
Google
start by
folks.
saying I have been from the beginning of this season saying that if it were any other year, if we did not have a 7'2" unicorn in the draft, it would have been suck for Scoot. It would have been Scoot Henderson is the generational talent of this draft. In my opinion, Charlotte already they have a point guard, but he's LaMelo Ball's like 6'7". So in my opinion, you take the guy who, to me, it was Wemby, Scoot, everybody else. And that's what I would have done. I would have given those two guys 1 year to try to see if they could coexist. And if it doesn't work, you have a decision to make, but you have one of two very valuable assets that you're going to have to move off from. Whereas now, put my tinfoil hat on maybe, Michael Jordan sold the team, but still had the rights to make that draft pick. So did he really pick the guy that he thought would do best, or was that just a screw you guys on the way out? I would hope he's not that petty, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I tell you, Scoot Henderson. I'm a big Auburn guy, and Scoot Henderson is he was going to go to Auburn before the G League came in, and they would have had him, Walker Kessler, and Jabari Smith on the same team last year. So I'm like, so close. I was like, man, that would have been awesome. But so I've kind of followed Scoot in the G League, and he's been obviously awesome. So I liked him, and he's going to be a good fit for Portland. So
yeah, they got exactly what they needed to slide in to replace Dame, right?
Yep,
worked out okay.
For sure.
Speaking of
Basketball,
David's like,
right?
Matt, Kev, you kind of just let me to it, and it's more of a joke than anything. But you said speaking of sliding into things, Grady Dick going into Toronto. What do you think of
you
that?
Want him in a
there?
Pacers uni? Is that what we wanted?
Oh, I'm a Lakers fan. I just,
you're a Lakers fan, okay.
But
I wasn't sure with the Hoosiers comment earlier. I was like,
I'm a
because I had to
Colts
deal
fan.
with a lot of that. I had to deal with a lot of the Pacers should draft Grady Dick, and I was like, I don't think you've looked at our roster. That does not fit a need that team has. So what is the question? Like, do I like to fit in Toronto, or?
Yeah, you just kind of led me into it with the slide into. We were gonna move on, but it was way too good to pass up.
There.
So
yeah, Grady Dick is a great fit. Sliding up north.
Yeah.
He's gonna slide right into the groove there in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yep. Somebody's got to replace. They're gonna be missing a big piece in Pascal Siakam. So hopefully Dick has that big piece. That
you think Grady Dick can fit into the small forward spot?
Yes, I think so. You might be able to slot him right in.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right,
boy.
we've got off the rails here, but Josh Hader is now in the game.
I believe this is for the save.
It's bottom 8th, isn't it?
Bottom 8.
Yeah, it's bottom 8.
Bottom 8. All right.
Yeah.
He is talking to the announcers while
I was just
pitching.
about to say, are they mic'd up?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's doing
Yeah.
the he's doing the
Uh-oh.
Alec
Oh,
Manoah.
base hit.
Well, look at that. And Whit Merrifield gets a hit.
Yeah. Well, we know what happened last time to the guy who mic'd up during the All Star game while he was pitching.
Next year he was awful.
Yeah, Alec Manoah's been terrible.
Sell your Josh Hader stock now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's been fun here.
Whit Merrifield had. Let me. Oh, I had to plug in my headset earlier. To unplug my keyboard.
Oh, Ozzy smacked up too.
Yeah, it's Ozzy and Josh Hader, which is an odd couple.
That is weird.
Whit
it's
Merrifield
their
is
team
sitting
teammates
at.
next year.
Whit Merrifield is sitting at a 107 WRC plus and 1.5 WAR. I just do not know how he's here.
They needed somebody to
At
get a
all.
single.
I guess, but
I think they mistaken
Uh-oh.
that he still
Uh-oh.
played on that he still played on
Well
the
play.
Royals.
Who
never
made
mind.
that
He just
play?
got picked off.
Who was
what
that?
a double! Wow.
Was that Riley?
I think it was Riley.
Damn.
Riley just snagged one and
Yeah, it
doubled
was.
him off.
Nice.
Riley's had some good defensive plays in this game.
He's been a lot better this
In
year.
one
defensively.
motion too.
Yeah.
Wow.
On-
He's got a great arm.
Off the knee. Wow.
He Austin Riley was a lot of teams liked him better as a pitcher coming out of high school when he got drafted. So he's got a good arm.
You said draft? Should we go back to the draft? I was trying to.
Ah,
Yeah, working on
It-
segue. I like
it-
this. All right, we're doing a little
There you
workshop. I like this. I love this.
yeah.
Get Kev's take on the MLB draft. Happened Sunday. I don't know if you know any. You might know
No.
exactly. You might know exactly as much as I know about the NBA draft. I knew
Yes.
that Wembyana was one. That was all I knew.
It might be,
Still don't know how to say his name.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. See, Victor. I knew Victor was number one.
There you
That's
go.
all I knew.
Yeah. You know,
Hey, I only know how to spell Antetokounmpo because of this
Yeah.
job. So you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that just kind of looking at it, should we be worried about Wemby's frame?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm not yet. So the parallel that I kind of draw to is like I know the frame isn't exactly the same, but I think of a young Kevin Durant. Right, he was a little too skinny coming out of
Yeah.
school as well. We had some of those. He had some of those dunked on moments where you're like, oh wow, a stiff breeze will knock him over. But I don't think he's gonna be spending a ton of time like banging with the bigs in the paint. I don't know what they're, they have Sochan over there. I don't know exactly how. I see him more as like a to potentially butcher. This might not be a good, but like a free safety center fielder kind of defender where he's going to
Yeah.
block, he's going to protect the rim, but you're not going to want him up against a big body.
Yeah.
But he's going to get, especially these first couple of years. But I think he's going to end up. He's got that weird one-handed floater he can hit from three. I think he's going to be a perimeter scorer as well. Maybe. I mean, if he's not spending all his free time with Tim Duncan, I don't know what's going on because he should have the best mid-range, unblockable, off the glass shot. He really shouldn't have to get in there and mix it up too much. But no, I'm not worried yet. But I don't know, longevity with guys like I think about Yao,
Yeah.
right? That dude just kept breaking his feet,
Yao,
just walking
yeah.
around.
Yeah. That's kind of
Porzingis too.
that's kind of what
Yeah.
I was thinking is the long term, like everyone's like it and I love Vic. I mean, I love his game, but just looking at it like that long term, like, hey, he's gonna be the next LeBron James. He's gonna be the next guy we're talking about here in 18, 20 years is the guy. And it's like there's a lot of, I mean, he has that talent, but at the same time, like that frame and having to play the position of that center being 7'4", having to beat and bang with a Joel Embiid or a Nikola Jokic day in, day out, like that's going to be tough to do for that long.
Yeah, I agree with it. And that it's tough because when you have that kind of potential, when you have a guy that can do the things. I mean, I see they just came out with the Legacy League. It's a basketball league played on 8.5 feet rim. Just
Yeah.
in case you guys want to,
Yeah.
relive some old glories. That's what life is like for Victor. So
Yeah.
I get why you can't pass up on him.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, longevity. There are some concerns there because you've seen some guys like that. We mentioned We mentioned Yao. I got really razzed on hard for making some Sean Bradley jokes early on, but once they started showing me footage of Victor Wembanyama juggling, all I could think of was people telling me about how Sean Bradley liked to water ski and could hit a curveball, and that I wasn't supposed to worry about his athletic ability at 7'6".
Right.
So yeah, I do get a little bit worried about the joints maybe. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we get along. The thing, I can't stand the LeBron comparison because people forget that LeBron James at 18 years old had an NBA body already.
Yeah.
He was like 6'7", 260.
Yeah.
He was not. What we're talking about with Victor, that's the thing. He's not. His body's not NBA ready. He's not even playing an NBA style game. Like European game is different.
Yeah.
So he's definitely. I think my expectation is that the sky will be falling early on. People are going to overreact, and he'll kind of like in Summer League, right? He had a bad game one. Oh God, he airballed one. The curse of Britney Spears, whatever. Next game he drops 25 points, right? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
For
brought
sure.
Pablo Lopez in now.
Yeah.
I said closer, Pablo Lopez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much there, but
Pablo. So, Kev, I don't know if you. I don't know if you followed this, but Pablo Lopez, guy's pitching for the AL right now. He was traded for Luis Arias, who is the guy who was coming close to hitting 400.
And they both have played in this game, and Arias has 2 hits. Oh,
And
the
there's-
umpire just got smoked.
I was saying, then the umpire just got a hit, I think.
Got clobbered.
yeah. And
No,
Lopez,
I hadn't been following that. So is this a very quick, like, are we already winner loser on this
Oh,
trade? Is that
I think it's a
winner.
Yeah, it's
Winner,
winner.
really.
winner?
Yeah, the
love
Minnesota
winner,
already
winner.
signed Lopez to an extension.
Yeah.
Did, yep.
Yep.
He's been
And Arias has kind of propelled the Marlins to like their best start ever, and it's been really interesting. And the Marlins are having their best start ever, and they're still 9.5 games back. But
It's the Braves
I mean-
talking.
Yeah.
Them's the breaks. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's one of those where Arias having that 400 average season, but Ronald Acuna is showing you what doing
he's better
more than just
still.
hitting the batting average
Yeah.
will do. He's Acuna is on pace for 40-70.
40-80.
stolen bases. It might even be 40-80. He is going. Oh, Soto base hit.
It's not there. I love those win-wins. You know, the
It's a good one.
NBA had one last year. It was when
Halliburton.
bonus for Halliburton. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everybody gets re-signed. Everybody's happy. I love that. Too often we get caught up on winners, losers. Sometimes it's just great when people get what they need in return.
Not everybody's going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Every trade they ever make. Oh,
Chris
Yeah.
Archer.
Oh my God! Hey, the Pirates they did well by us. You know, I can't remember what they just gave us Aramis Ramirez for, but I feel like it was highway robbery back in the day. That's an old school. What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Kind
Oh,
of dating
man.
myself with that one, but
2003. Hold on. I got this. Aramis Ramirez traded to Cubs.
Was he on the 2003 team, or was it after the 2003 season?
Okay, y'all are this trade. Pirates traded away Aramis Ramirez and Kenny Lofton.
I was gonna say, didn't we get Kenny Lofton in it too?
Oh, man.
That's what I was thinking. They received Mike Bruback, Jose Hernandez, and Bobby Hill.
Yikes.
And that's a trade right there, man. Ooh, buddy. I mean, that might be the worst trade of all
How old
time.
was
That's up
Aramis?
there.
Was Aramis up? He wasn't a prospect, was he?
No, he had just come up and he was
He'd
struggling.
come up.
But they gave up on him super quick.
Yeah.
It was just, oh gosh. Cubs went and traded for Derek Lee that offseason too. I mean, they nailed some of those early 2000s trades.
Yeah.
What was that? Did we send Dontrell Willis in return for Derek? Was that
No,
the Derek
it
Lee
was-
trade? Or was that a different trade? That was a different
It's
trade.
Hesop
Okay.
Choi that we traded for Derek Lee.
Yeah, that's a win. What a win. What a fleet.
Yeah.
Castellanos.
Thank
He
God
said
it's
it.
not a home runs.
Still, if something bad's gonna happen. It's gonna-
Yeah.
Backing up here.
Yeah. I'm I'm dreading the fact that the Braves have to face Castellanos twice on September 11th.
No,
They have a
no.
doubleheader on September 11th.
Oh no.
Phillies.
Oh boy.
I'm scared.
This is gonna be bad.
Man.
But
Speaking of that, did you guys see the Mets jersey that was September 11th that was in the stands the other day?
oh god.
No.
No.
Somebody like made a custom jersey that the
And the
name was
number was-
September and
oh.
the number was 11.
Oh my.
Oh,
Oh.
that's equally cringy. All right, it's a
Yeah.
little
Oh.
better. Like logistically, it looks better than what I was. I was imagining the number
Oh.
was a 9,
Oh,
like
no.
a fraction, a 9,
Yeah,
11.
no.
That's better, but oof,
I don't know what the front
Yeah.
was. Maybe the front had that. They'd only showed the back though, so
that's a lot. I mean, custom jerseys aren't cheap, right? I
no.
can't imagine
Yeah.
spending money.
Yeah.
It had to be like a prank or something. Like somebody lost their fantasy football league and they had to wear that to the
Mets
game
or something.
to the Mets game as punishment or something. Like that's what that is.
That's what that has to be.
That's
yeah.
nothing.
They had to do that. They had to do that and sit in front of Frank Fleming.
Oh yeah. But
Oh boy.
Oh man.
We're
it's
gonna
be
blow the
Kimbrel
All-Star
for the
game
night.
again.
Oh no.
No.
it's gonna
Elias Diaz can wrap up MVP if he doesn't strike out here. He did-
And he strikes
Well,
out.
never
be,
mind.
yeah. So the
So-
NL is going for their first win in what 11 years?
9 years.
Wow.
That's what they said, which is crazy.
Rosie said
Right.
11.
Huh.
At least you guys
Good
get a
time.
close All-Star game, and it's not like, hey, we're playing to a point total, and everyone's just
know.
gonna shoot from half court for these last 8 minutes. 'cause
Yeah,
no one
wasn't
cares
that
anymore.
like the weirdest thing? Like, hey, we're gonna play to a total, and then like after that, we're gonna add the next one, like add 24 to it. or whatever that
it's
year,
So
like-
weird. There's
like
a reason it
it's-
was the least viewed All-Star game.
It was
Yeah.
awful, man.
Yeah, it's
So,
not-
so Kev, we were actually we kind of let
Yeah.
off with this. We were talking about potential for MLB to maybe change up the way they do the All-Star game because the All-Star game is just another game of baseball, just with a bunch of other guys, right? How would you change the MLB All-Star game to make it more unique than just another baseball game with, all the different players?
Ooh, see, that question's good, and I might not have as good of an answer for it. It's funny. In the NBA space, we do this same exercise, right? How can we make
Right.
All-Star Weekend better? Because it's not great. So my suggestion to the NBA is focus on the G League, make it about the young players, put people in those situations who actually have incentive to try their hardest and to put on a show instead of players who are just worried about not getting hurt. This not exactly the same issue that you guys are dealing with here.
Yeah.
So that's a tough. I honestly don't know how to answer it outside of it changing who plays in the game. Like, do you want to do an NBA thing where instead of AL, NL, you have captains that draft a new team? Like, I haven't been a big fan of that as an NBA fan. I don't know how you guys feel about that if that were to go into baseball, because I don't know what else you do, right? Because it's just a game, right? It's just a game. It's supposed.
Yeah.
It used to be such a draw. Like, I don't know about you guys. I'm a '90s kid, so the All-Star game, I don't know. It used to be the home run derby on its own. Used to be great. I don't know if it's just nostalgia making me think it was so much better. But I don't know. I felt like the games meant something more. Of course, old school, like aesthetically, I always want to go back to make everyone wear their team's
We were
jersey.
talking about that
Give me
earlier
that.
too.
At the very least, just give me that, and I'll deal with other things. But maybe go retro. Like, don't wear this year's jerseys. Like, you want to do something cool? Wear a throwback. Everybody wears their current team's away throwback or whatever. Do something.
Good
One
idea.
thing that, yeah, I like that. I think one thing that, that's with baseball that might have lost a little bit. You talked about the way they do the draft, the player draft in the NBA All Star Game, and I think that used to back in the 90s and to a certain extent up until the last few years, you didn't see the NL teams play the AL teams very often, and especially in the the longest part of the All Star Game history. Interleague play didn't exist at all, except in the World Series. So, like, you never got to see Nolan Ryan, who didn't pitch in the World Series, face Barry Bonds or something, like, because they never faced each other. So that was something that was always super intriguing for fans to see in the All Star Game. And now, you occasionally see these guys. Like, you see,
every team plays everybody now.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, this year you're gonna see Wander Franco face Kimbrel. You probably already have. I mean, it's like that's one thing that it has lost, and that bragging rights and that which league is better type thing. Like, that's something that used to be a bigger thing than it is now, just because now all the teams play each other. And I think to some aspect the NBA used to be in a way that, like, that pride of which conference is better meant a little bit in the game. Like, there's always been a lack of contact and stuff, and that's one thing with baseball, that the game's a lot more competitive because you don't have the high amount of contact in baseball. Like, you don't want to foul somebody and break their nose in the All-Star game. I mean, you don't want LeBron breaking his thumb on the rim in the All-Star game. Like,
right. Yeah, with the exception of the reliever, like the pitching, baseball of all the All-Star games, it's the closest to the actual product, right?
Exactly.
Right.
All these other sports, don't even get me started on the Pro Bowl.
I mean, it just doesn't work. All-Star games don't work for football. It's such a physical sport. I mean, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and that's maybe with the bragging rights. I don't know. I for instance, with basketball, I've thought of different ways. Like, don't just make it one game. Split them up in divisions and do a little small tournament, right? Do a little one-day tournament, have, do whatever. I don't know if there's a different way, and that's the thing with baseball. What would you do? Would you break? You don't have, like, some of those same options that, I mean, especially with basketball, they've already bastardized the whole thing. They played we played at 21. It feels like a game at the YMCA now. It's like, all right, for these 3 quarters, we'll play to this. But with baseball, it's like, well, any of these ideas that I've had for other sports, it's like, well, I don't want to break a 9-inning game into 3-inning games. Like, I wouldn't want to do that either. So, like, what? I don't know if it's maybe they need to look at the events around the game itself and try to generate more excitement there. I cracked up seeing Brett Boone win the Celebrity All-Star Game MVP. It feels like he should not be allowed to, a guy who's been in 2.
Nope.
No.
It's on the track. Man, just missed it.
Just got in on him.
Ooh, buddy.
But yeah, it's like, and I didn't get to catch the home run derby, but I heard there was some controversy. I heard somebody got robbed, so I don't know if there's some things they could look at there that might generate more interest, and maybe viewership will stay down on the game itself. But I don't know.
All right, Kev, I got one for you. I got something for you for the home run derby. We discussed this in, like, the first inning, so it's been a few hours. My solution for the home run derby is that we don't want to see a bunch of guys just trying to swing and hit home runs. Is Juan Soto okay? Okay, he is.
Yeah.
Ran into the wall.
Crashing into the stands to catch the ball in the home run derby.
As we were talking about, well, they're safe. At least nobody gets hurt in the All-Star game, and he just
goes flying full speed.
If it was the World Series, he would be in the stands right now, though. I mean, for real. Like,
absolutely, he'd be selling out for that one.
He would have caught that ball if it wasn't for that fan.
Oh no!
Let me tell you, that kid last night had less of a reaction than Soto
I've never
did.
seen anything like that. I don't know what you're talking about.
I just had, like, Nom flashbacks right now.
that one hurt. PTSD. Okay, so here's my thing. I don't think we want to see just people taking half swings, just trying to get the ball over the fence over and over again, in a time limit. I want to see, I want to see a guy hit the ball 500 feet, a bunch. Craig Kimbrel is pulling back the clock and, going back to being just an absolutely elite closer, which is awesome. I love Craig Kimbrel. Anyway, trying to get this out, but the game keeps happening. Right. We're almost done with it. Metal bats, juice ball, be a pitching machine to keep things in the same spot, and then I want the furthest ball you can hit after, 10 home runs or something. And then we take, we'll go in rounds. So the furthest 5 home runs, those guys move on of a field of 10 or something. And then of those 5, we take the top 2. They get one more round, and then that's the winner. I think that's the ideal way to do this, because then we're looking for mammoth home runs only. And that's what
I
matters.
mean, you're on to something here. The one thing that they need to adapt, if they don't take any of this, bring the pitch machine into play, because I miss the untimed. Like I remember a time, maybe it's the Mandela effect, but I remember there not being timed rounds and it just being a number of outs. Again, I'd rather have a longer home run derby where we're getting this oh God, don't entertain me more. Like, oh, God forbid the home run derby run long because people are hitting too many home runs. But then they compounded this mistake by saying we're going to time these rounds, and each player is going to have their favorite 80-year-old batting practice pitcher stand up there, and we are going to be reliant upon that guy's stamina to make sure he can get enough pitches over the plate to you in a 2-minute time. And at that point, so we're not even really gauging the best hitter anymore. We're gauging the best batting practice pitcher. And so give me the pitching machine. I do think at the very least, if they don't already do some kind of bonus trophy for longest dong, sorry, phrasing, then I don't know what they're missing on that one. But yeah, I'm in. Let's try this once next year.
Don't worry about phrasing here, Kev. We've already went way past.
I wasn't sure. I figured once you invited Nate over, I was probably fine. At Bite Size Sports, we encourage cuss words. ESPN's not offering me millions of dollars anytime soon, so we cuss a lot.
We're fine with it too, but.
Oh
my
Julio
God.
Rodriguez is up.
All right, I know if anybody's still watching,
commentary.
Craig Kimbrell just walked Kyle Tucker in front of Julio Rodriguez in Seattle.
With Julio Rodriguez being the winning run with 2 outs.
You want to talk about bringing the All Star Game back to people being entertained by it? Here we go.
Julio Rodriguez jacking a 2-run walk-off.
I want this whole
be the way.
I don't know if you guys. I mean, obviously, we will remember the Bryce Harper walk-up in the World Series. Like, that was the whole song, and then John Smoltz saying, he's going to look for a fastball here. And he gets the fastball right down the middle and hits the homer. That's this whole scenario right here should be what plays out.
I would never accuse Major League Baseball of scripting anything, but if Craig Kimbrell's not just chunking some bassballs down the middle here, I don't know what they're doing.
He's not pulling
there's a nasty knuckle curve. Never mind. Craig Kimbrell's got 2 pitches, so it's either the fastball or the knuckle curve. You just have to pick one and swing at it.
Yeah, he gives up a lot of home runs too.
Oh, if it just hangs a little bit.
Oh, 94. He's not even throwing hard for him too.
That's what I'm saying. Is I feel like Kimbrell's just hucking it in there and seeing what happens.
Well, to be able to locate it, he's got to slow it down these days.
Yeah.
We all get silent.
I think Kimbrell's got him.
Go. Nope, not there. Yep. Got a little wild there.
Can finally focus on the game. We spent 3 hours kind of going around the game and using the game for points and all kinds of stuff, and now it's all
we're
about the
entertained
game
now.
Yeah.
I bet he throws the curve.
There it is. In the dirt. Julio took 3-2.
Julio's off the same thing.
And the 3-2 count.
He's got to lay one in there, right? He's got to throw him I think he's going to throw him the knuckle curve way out of the zone, and Julio's going to miss it.
I think he's going to go to the fastball.
4 straight foul balls.
Gotta throw a fastball. Come on, man. Come on, Kimbrell. Throw a fastball.
Let's see it.
Try to blow it by him. There. Good. That was a good fastball, too.
That was right on the corner. That was not going to get hit very hard if it got hit.
Yeah. You never know with Julio, but he could have hit it hard. He's one of the few. But yeah.
Young Phenom versus veteran reliever.
Oh man.
Ball 4.
Oh, and it's a walk. Oh, wow. Stop me if you've seen this one before.
I personally have never seen Craig Kimbrell walk two people in the ninth
Jeez,
inning.
what? Craig
Uh-oh.
Kimbrell doing a Rod Beck? What year is it?
2020, 2021, 2019.
Now visit time. Is Elias Diaz still catching?
I think so.
No, it looks like Will Smith.
Oh, Will Smith's been catching. Diaz got the DH.
Diaz got the DH. Gotcha. Well, that worked out because he hit a home run. Yep, Will Smith. If Will Smith was a better pitch framer, he would have been out.
No, don't start.
It's just because Matt's losing the best catcher in the bleak debate. All right, Damien.
He's still the best Will Smith there is.
Yeah.
He's not a slap hitter though.
I was just about to say the other Will hits for contact though.
Yep.
Oh well, the other Will also gets taken deep by this Will.
Yeah, the other Will gives up more home runs than this Will hits. And that's saying something because this Will does hit a lot.
Oh,
Oh boy. Jose.
What a pitch. Woo!
Yeah, that is not where he wanted that to.
But that's the thing about Kimbrel, right? His
Yeah.
stuff is so nasty. Like even when he doesn't have any command.
Yeah. I guess Will Smith's worked with him before too.
Yeah, they were
last
both
year.
Dodgers last year.
Yep. Oh, that's
God, yeah. I couldn't even think about that.
Yep.
Imagine trying to catch somebody like that and you haven't caught him before, and it's just like,
Yeah.
Well, you'll know the
Umpire.
AL threw both Orioles relievers that are throwing 100-mile-an-hour with
To
Adley
Adley.
Rutschman catching. Yeah.
Umpire, yeah, he went, but you got to check that one, honestly.
Who's left in the NL bullpen?
Ooh. I don't know.
Why isn't Bednar in there?
Yeah, Bednar. Is Bednar available? I guess.
He might not. The Pirates might have requested that he not pitch.
Yeah, he pitched last year too, so.
Yeah. I mean,
think
Bednar
they
got in
prior-
because he was the replacement for Kershaw, so.
Evan Williams, but he's probably down. Senga would be in there. All.
Evan Phillips should be.
you're gonna walk him loaded.
So I think it's just Senga.
Unless,
Oh yeah, Kodak.
Unless Williams and them are available, but
I don't
probably
think
not.
Williams is. He's got an asterisk. I think Williams is down.
Bednar. Well, they wouldn't have an asterisk on there for that.
Got him.
Swing and a miss.
93.
93. All right. Well,
Kimbrel with 93 blows it by him.
There it is.
NL has won the All Star Game.
Yeah, for the first time in a long time.
Yep, for the first time in a long time. We're all NL fans, I guess. I've never cared about
It
the All Star
doesn't matter, but it was fun. It's a good game. So
At least they have home
Good.
field advantage in the World Series now.
I'm so glad they
I
got
mean-
that, dude. Oh my goodness.
I mean, the Braves are going to win 110 games, so they will anyways.
You realize that when the Cubs won the World Series, the AL won the wild card game or the All Star game, gave the Indians home field advantage in
yeah.
the World Series, and Cubs won the World Series that year. I mean that in Cleveland too. I
Was that the last year of that too?
think it was, yeah.
So they changed
So
it. Yeah.
otherwise the Cubs would have had
Two
had
curses
home
broken
field
that year.
advantage.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was gonna say because Game 7 of 2017 was in LA, and if they hadn't won in 11 years,
Mhm.
definitely wasn't that. But well,
Hell yeah.
Kev, thanks for joining us and coming on and paraphrasing, word phrasing with us and lasting here as we go off the rails as we normally do on our podcast and stuff. But it was a pleasure to have you on, and we'll work something out to get you back some other time. But anything you wanna tell people where they can find your stuff at?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, you can find me, of course, on Bite Size Sports, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that good stuff. You can find us. We have Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, Bite Size Sports. You can find me on Twitter at KevNevic _. And if you're a big hoops fan, come hang out with us at Last Word on Sports. I'm an editor over there. We got NBA, NCAA. Right now, we're covering Summer League. So if you're not watching Summer League, like I'm not, don't worry. My staff, we got your back. You can know exactly. I know every Jalen Hood-Schifino stat line so far
There it is.
of
That's all you need to
Summer
know.
League. So we got your back.
That's all you need to know right there. The next
If I can
LeBron
tell you,
James,
I'm also
Jalen
not
Hood-Schifino.
watching Summer League.
I watched the Wemby game the other day.
Well, you won't be
So-
watching any more of those.
Yeah, it was the second most viewed Summer League game of all time. I can't remember what the first one was, but yeah, everybody tuned in for that one.
Lonzo Ball's debut, probably.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Oh man.
We're going off the rails again, but once again, thanks for joining us, Kev. It was a lot of fun having you on
Thank you
today.
guys so much for having me. Hey, open invite. We don't have a baseball show yet, so anytime you guys want to come and invade our space, be happy to roll out the baseball rug. You guys can come do a show with us on Bite Side Sports. It'd be awesome. We'd love to have you.
Sweet, sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you.
guys. So, anyways, thanks everyone for our first live stream, for coming and watching along with the 2023 MLB All Star Game with us. Like I said, we're going to hope to do more live streams in the future, maybe eventually some playoff games as we get to it. But this was a lot of fun. Thanks for all of the views, the chats that we had tonight. And we won't have a podcast out this week because of this, but we'll catch you guys back